Well,
Oh my goodness.
good morning, good
We're
Sunday
here.
morning. Welcome to episode 13 of the HQ podcast.
I feel like
I'm
we started the podcast 5 minutes ago
we really
in the
did.
waiting in the
I
waiting room.
with everyone else, I just sit there quietly. Like with Brad, I'm like
Waiting for the clock to tick down. We were like already covered like four
four
topics in
topics that we
five
could get an
minutes.
hour and a half out of. We are not good.
No.
Speaking of, my name is Cameron.
My name is Chloe.
We are your crew of podcasters for this lovely
Yes.
November Sunday morning. It is
Ah!
straight off.
Unlikely duo.
Chloe95 just subscribed.
Congrats on subscribing for 6 months, Chloe. I didn't see you touch
Thanks.
anything.
Do we have the thing up with no, the comments will show up on there. Do we have the bigger one?
Boom. There we go. That's the one we need.
Yeah, that's the one. 6 months in a row. What a boss. Hey, I didn't consent to that 6 month subscription. You stole my money.
It's auto. It pays automatically.
That's true. That's true. It's me, Chloe.
Welcome
God
to the
damn
chat.
it. God damn it.
Well,
What should we start with?
I don't know. We've
There's
talked
so
about
many
so much
things.
already.
Right, what did we talk about already? We talked about Fleabag.
Fleabag,
We talked about 90s anime.
which I think we should revisit because I'm a big 90s anime fan.
I feel like I'm not a good enough fan to accurately go toe to toe with you.
Look, I'm not as big as of a weeb as people think I am. I think I got anime tattoos. That's about it.
My anime like exposure was like whatever my sister would burn onto a USB for me.
Yeah.
That's what I could watch.
Most of my taste came from whatever they showed early in the morning. Dragon
Oh, yes.
Ball, Naruto, Sailor Moon.
Yes, One
That
Piece.
started me off. Never liked One Piece.
No. And like when I don't know what show, I can't remember what the cartoon role, like the one that was in the morning, it replaced Cheese TV.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
I
about.
can't remember what it was called, but they would play One Piece and it would
Yes.
always get to the same like episode 100.
Yep.
And then like that was all they bought and
Yep.
it would repeat.
It's the same with Naruto. They
Yeah.
only got to the halfway through the tune-in exam.
Yes.
So you'd get to the forest fight with Orochimaru, and then
Yeah.
it'd just be like
You'd get
the beginning
so
episode
hyped.
again.
Yeah. and then they would
Yeah.
repeat it. Like I feel like I've watched the first 40 episodes of Naruto
like 100 times.
5 times.
Yeah, 100%.
And I was into it every time, but I was like, dang, I really wonder if they all become tune in at the end.
Someone told me the reason that wasn't to do with how much was released or how much Australia bought.
Right.
Was because the guidelines changed, because in Japan,
Mm.
the guidelines are so much broader than in America and Australia that all of Naruto was considered for kids. Yet
Yeah.
here, once they finished that fight, it got really
Right.
adult
Yeah.
and they brought in like Itachi and all these
That
older
makes
criminal
sense.
characters that Australia was like, we're not going to show this to children.
I remember they would censor out the blood and they made it black.
Yeah.
But then I didn't realize it was blood. And I was like, why did when he squeezes people, this ink, why when Gareth squeezes people, ink falls from the sky? I thought it was
Right.
some weird ink power. And I didn't understand.
And then it got worse because all the curse stuff was black. And Sasuke's, this is so weeby, Sasuke's, one of Sasuke's abilities was the Amaterasu, which was the black flame.
Yeah.
So there was just all this black shit on screen.
And you couldn't tell what was blood and what was curse.
Yeah. Have you seen what they're doing now? Well,
The
specifically in
reboot
China.
with the children?
No, to do with censoring blood.
No, what are they doing?
Yeah, they use white.
White.
So in Spy X Spy, no, is it, yes, Spy X Spy, I don't know, I haven't watched it. There's just scenes of people laying on the ground covered in white stuff.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's only in
also-
China though.
have you have you ever seen the censoring of like? Don't ask me how I've seen it. They call it the ghost swang. Have you ever seen the ghost swang?
Maybe.
It's where like it's like adult content. Usually it's for like comic books or something.
Yeah.
I only know it because of the phenomenon of the ghost swang. Like,
Okay.
I've heard of it and I was like, that's hilarious, and I looked into it. And so it's when like Chinese web artists or like Japanese web artists and they can't draw dicks
Yeah.
because they'll get in trouble. So rather than like they don't even censor it, they'll just draw its penis is just like this white sausage and it glows and it's the ghost way.
I love it.
Like they can't.
Yeah.
I was like, is that the best way to censor it, to make it this glowing
Omnipotent
white
divine artifact.
sausage? Yeah.
They're so weird.
And it's not even like they drew a not for safe version and then censored it.
Edited
They
it.
only draw the ghost swang.
That's so weird.
So that's the phenomenon that
Yeah,
people don't know about.
Some of the censoring in hentai is hilarious. I love the tiny little black bars. Not that I consume it at all.
Yeah, of course.
But the tiny little black bars, it's like, what's the point? Japan's
Yeah.
such a weird. They've reversed all that. It's now.
They can do it now?
I'm pretty sure
They're all
art
good
is
with
still
it?
restricted, but like
Right.
physical, real life, mature content
Right.
isn't as censored as it used to be.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just turning into when I have
Anyway.
a podcast with Brad and we talk about
well,
losing
we
our
were-
virginity in the
well-
first 20 minutes.
Well, I think of it this way. I don't think anyone watching will be like, well, I never consumed that sort of content. What a bunch of weirdos. I think anyone of our age that grew up on the internet as teenagers with parents that weren't internet literate were extremely exposed to very inappropriate content
100%.
from like 13 years old.
I fully believed Gohan came from a sex scene that was banned in Australia because I found Goku and Chi-Chi porn when I was quite young. And I was like, this is just a normal episode of Dragon Ball that I never saw.
It was so easy to accidentally stumble on inappropriate
Or, like,
websites.
I can tell you exactly where the first time I saw hentai was.
It's
remember-
burned into your memory.
100% it is. And the worst part is my dad's involved. I hate how my dad's involved in most of these terrible stories. Do you remember Miniclip, the game website?
No.
Which recently shut down, actually. Pour one out for the dead homie Miniclip.
I have heard something else.
Oh, any
Yeah.
with a T? My apologies. No, Miniclip.
But I was
My
clip, yes. All right.
yes.
With a
There was a game on it called Commando something or other, and it was
Mm.
just a 2D side-scrolling shooter, and it was really fun. I used to play it nonstop. So did my dad. Now, you said computer illiterate. My dad's not computer illiterate. He's worked with computers
True,
since he was
true.
16.
Well, no, my dad too, but yeah.
Exactly. So he absolutely loved. We had all these really fancy computers when I was young. He used to play them as well. And one of the comments, because you used to be able to comment on it, was there's a modded version. Just Google it. So I Googled modded Commander something or other.
Yeah.
And I found the website that had it on. And literally, it was the first time I'd seen the sidebars of Sakura getting railed by a snake. And I was like, I haven't seen this episode of Naruto.
I've only seen the first 40.
What, is this what the tuning exam's like? I don't want to see this.
No.
Yeah, I still remember it. It was Sakura
Burnt
getting
your
bent
brain.
over and a snake entering her.
Yeah, I think the things that we were interested in with video games were very adjacent to porn banner ads.
100%.
I don't know why the Venn diagram worked that way, but
Horny
they were
nerds.
they were like nerds like inappropriate content. I was like,
God. But 90s anime, am I right?
yeah,
90s anime got me into my Gundam obsession. I was a big Gundam Wing fan when I was younger. And then Gundam Double X after war. No one's ever seen that one, but that's where the best Gundam comes from.
I don't think I even know what a Gundam is. They're just the robot people, right?
Tattooed on my back.
Oh yeah.
It's
The
a mech
robot
suit
guys.
that's piloted by teenagers, and it's a metaphor for how bad war is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
That
great.
sounds familiar. I just watched. I used to live up in the Northern Territory, so like tiny country town. Only exists because of the military base.
Yep.
There, the Air Force Base, and for some reason that town still got 90s anime for kids cartoons. So it was in the morning. It was Card Captor Sakura and
Amazing.
Sailor Moon.
Amazing.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
As a 5-year-old, I would watch the Magic Girl transformation scenes. And even though they used the same one every episode, I was still amazed every time.
What are they going to do today?
Yeah, I was like, it's amazing. I just liked all the sparkles. As a kid, it really spoke to me.
I love Sailor Moon.
Yeah. I've read somewhere that they did a live action version of it, but I think it was trash.
Have you watched the video of the American adaptation?
No.
I'll send you the video link. It's incredible. This YouTuber found it was lost media. An American company got the rights to produce a American version, and it was half
cartoon
animated,
version?
half real life.
Oh gosh.
So you have the animated crew
Yeah.
when they're in their sailor, what's it called? Super sailor soldiers.
Right, yeah.
Blanking. But when they're in real life at school, it's just an American teen drama.
Oh no.
And nothing against it, but it's super 90s and 80s.
That's
One of them's in a wheelchair, and she isn't in a wheelchair in real life. It's just very weird.
so she's in a wheelchair when she's animated.
So it's just kind of like that. She's in a wheelchair. That's her character.
Right.
It's not just like a secondary thing.
That's all that she is. Yeah.
It's very 90s anime.
Good on them 90s.
God, it was hilarious. You should watch it.
What were the other ones that I watched? How many episodes does it go for? What sort of commitment is this?
Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
The original's like 100 and something, if not
Yeah.
200. Crystal's a lot easier to get through.
I feel like
I
you just
recommend Crystal.
what I find with anime, right, is the first 50 episodes it's like really compelling. It's like really interesting. And then it will go for like 200 more episodes and it just descends into weirder, niche, like if you watched a random like the 200th episode of Naruto, you would have no idea what's
Right.
going on. It's like, so the only way to understand it is to watch all of it. And it's just, there's just so much, and there's so many filler episodes, especially in Naruto. It's like, isn't it
Naruto's bad.
from 100 until the end of the first season, which it like goes for another 60 episodes. It's all just filler episodes.
There's a block of almost 100 episodes of filler during
Yeah.
Shippuden,
Yeah.
where I think it was to do with the broadcasting strike, and the mangaka stopped writing at the same time, and it was just a bad overlap. So like Naruto has like a robot enemy clone of himself that they
What?
fight on an island of turtles. It has
What?
absolutely nothing to do with, and it's like that's at the beginning of one of the best arcs, the Fourth Great War or whatever it is,
Yeah.
Fifth War, and there's all this political build up. All the groups are ready to go. An ancient enemy has been reawakened. And then there's 60 episodes of them running through a jungle trying to kill a robot version. They're
just building the
hilarious. That's, or you just skip it, which is what
Yeah,
I've done
yeah,
in
yeah.
every single watch through.
Yeah.
The good thing is there's so many websites with
Some,
skip.
Like they
You just-
summarize it, or
Yeah,
they.
or you can just skip
You
it
just
because
skip
it has
it.
absolutely no impact on the story. And there's one part where when Naruto learns to do his Kyuubi cloak form, which is when he goes yellow and he's got the big flowing cloak and he's got horns, and
Yeah.
it's like his ultimate form.
Yes. Final form.
He learns to do that in a filler that was animated by a different company, and it looks completely different. The story is about a scientist whose kids, she's got like 6 kids,
That's funny.
and they're fighting like a tentacle demon or something. And then Naruto learns how to go Kyuubi mode, and then they just had to retcon it because nobody watched it. And then he relearned
And then he
how to go Kyuubi
That
mode.
is funny.
So funny.
I think that I don't get why some animes that are great get cancelled after the first, like they do with like a 15 episode season and they're cancelled.
Yeah.
And then some episodes like Naruto, which like could have been great
Yeah.
if it had just been like
Short.
edited.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had like been like, no, we're gonna cut this. Like they just wanted as much content as possible.
It all comes down to their manga system over there and their
True.
rating system. The two systems in tandem, because how the manga contracts work. You get given a short run manga contract, or you get Shonen Jump pays you for the rest of your life to draw One Piece. But then it's all to do with ratings. Like if you're not in the top 2 or top 3, they just cancel you because they know there's 700 guys who want to put their slightly lewd high school dating sim.
That reminds me when we were talking about like our unintentional exposure to inappropriate content on the internet. I remember my first like time that I was like, that's not what I signed up for, like, because I used to like playing little like dating sim games.
Yeah.
Or I don't think I knew they were dating sim games. I think I just stumbled on them and I was like, oh, it's like a cute little like anime game where you have energy and you like have certain actions that you can do during a day, and then you know that classic dating sim thing. And I was like, this is fun. And then I started playing one, and turns out it was just like it was a sex dating sim.
Yeah.
Like his goal, like I was playing the guy, and the goal was just to sleep with all the girls.
All the girls.
And I didn't realize that's what it was. I was like so innocent. I thought he was just trying to date them and like try and fall in love. And then like I finally got far enough on like one girl's level that then it just switched to straight
Banging.
and I was like, ah! And then I immediately closed the tab because I like didn't understand why, because like that's not what
jump.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
In my head. And I thought I'd get in trouble, but I was like, I didn't know it was inappropriate when I started using it.
So I had the total opposite experience in high school. A friend promised me that one of them was going to end in fuck, and I spent I think 100 hours playing this game. It wasn't Queen Maker or Princess Maker, which is popular, but it was something fantasy, and they all knew I'm obsessed with fantasy. And he's like, yeah, just play it, man. Great. He won an award for that troll, I reckon. He's like, just keep playing it.
Just
bro.
keep eventually.
No reward. It was terrible.
Maybe you just didn't do the right storyline.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe it was just like one special.
The way those games
Line.
work, like I hate them now. I can't play them, but like you got to make like these certain decisions with certain girls, and then another girl opens up at the end of the game. It just feels weird.
Yeah, I like all this the sudden rise in dating sims, like the what was it called? The pigeon one?
Oh yeah,
Casio something.
yeah, Cuckoo or whatever it
Friend.
was.
Or there's one
yeah.
about dating like a brother printer. Like I just liked how
The meme
everyone-
ones are fun.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't played many of them, but I've just seen them, and I was like,
I played the horse one.
yes, the
It's
horse boyfriend
hilarious.
one. That one's funny. There was
And
guys in that.
well, Doki Doki had a lot to do with that
True,
because it was not a dating sim, but it got everyone thinking about it.
true.
Did you play it?
No, I think I just watched a playthrough of it just because it was this huge thing at the time, and
Yeah.
everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
The game it was promoting still hasn't come out. So
Oh, it wasn't like its own standalone thing.
no, so it was all about like a girl trapped in like a military base being tested on, and she'd infected this dating sim to try and get out. And then that game never came out.
Right.
I think they're still working on it. And
Bonjour, bonjour.
don't quote me. I don't want to sound like a dickhead, but I think they might be Eastern European. So there is a chance that production has halted.
Oh, right.
Very
Quote
unfortunate.
him. That's what happened. They
Please
got bombed
don't.
by
Don't-
the Russians.
I just can't talk. Like when I try and like last time I was on the podcast when I was trying to do the Rooster Teeth management stuff, I listened to it back and I could not make my point. And then that wheelchair
Do
shit.
you remember? I got really into I'm very into game devs from like the mid 2010s that promised a whole bunch of stuff and then never like delivered on it. Do you remember there was one called what's the Japanese word? It's the Japanese word for like a crazy girl.
Yandere Dev?
Yes, that one.
I'm
Whatever
quite-
happened with that?
He is crazy.
Yeah.
There's you sound like you know a lot about him, but there was a documentary I watched. I want to forget who it was. Oh God, no, not on Twitter. I'm blacklisting
Boycotting.
Twitter. Yeah, there was a documentary. I can't remember who made it. Many kudos is I think he's Kiwi actually. He does little documentaries about, and he did one on it that was hilarious. That guy's crazy.
I think I was following it to a point. Like, okay, the reason why I liked it is because this weird guy that I dated for like 2 days was like super into, like too much into anime. Like, sorry to him if he's watching, but he's not. Like
me in high school.
no, but like times 100. Like it was weird. It was.
Did he
very
call himself
strange.
Chris Chan or something?
No, but he did
Chris
this.
Chan.
He did
Whoops.
this thing where he was like finger gun. Like he always finger gunned me.
Yeah.
Like, double-handed finger gunned, and it like wasn't ironic. And I don't know. Anyway, so he was super into it, and he was like excited about it. And he was like, "Look at this game, like watch." And so I started, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that seems kind of funny, like concept for a game." And then it just started getting crazy and weird, and I was like, "I can't follow this anymore. I don't know what's happening with this."
I want to say he used Patreon money to buy a sex doll
Yes.
and then put the sex doll in the game. And that's how everyone realized he had bought the sex doll. And that's when everything started to fall apart.
Is
but-
that unconfirmed that he used the money from Patreon for the sex?
Yeah, it's like he's never confirmed it,
Right,
but
right.
the
People-
emails have been used. And he like was on a sex doll forum being like, "How do I clean out the receptacle?"
Oh no!
And then that email was, and he called it something like, again, don't quote me, Mia-kun, which translates to only for me in Japanese. And then the month after, a new character was added to Yandere Simulator called Mi-kun.
No.
He also has a
Look, people are gonna connect the dots.
right.
You know, that's
And when
what-
he was making a lot of money, it was like 17 grand a month because it was one of the first big games on Patreon that had a big backing from
Yeah, yeah,
Weebs.
yeah, yeah,
And as people with game development background, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I remember seeing the like gameplay footage of it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I can like it looks fun."
Yeah.
Yeah. So he just never finished it.
No, so the whole point was you had to kill the 8 girls that were trying to get with the boy.
Yes.
He has only just put in the first girl, but he spent the last 5 years making side mechanics like particle effects,
Right.
costumes, importing meme characters. There's like a Gundam girl in it. So he's just getting sidetracked instead
Yeah.
of actually working on the
On
game.
the main.
Man could make millions if he just finished the game. It
So he's
wouldn't take
still
long.
working on it.
I
It's
believe he's still
going.
working on it. Yeah.
God, when that finally that'll get released in like 2030, and everyone will. Oh God, I'll buy it.
Right. He had this amazing opportunity because it became a
Yeah.
massive, it became really popular on
If he
YouTube.
just like spent that money on hiring additional people to do the like grunt work that he didn't want to do, but the stuff that needs to be done to get it moving.
He had that toxic indie dev mindset of this is
Yeah.
my game, no one can
Yes.
touch it.
Yeah.
But his game was
Healthy.
very basic, and he was approached by some big name programmers being like, "We'll do it for you," because he
Yeah,
didn't
we'll
have
just
a
make it
programming
for you.
background.
Yeah. Oh, that's why it was taking him so long. Yeah,
He was using a lot of free assets too. Like most of the girls were free assets from some anime website. He did very little art. So he was kind of just a glorified designer.
right. That explains why he was so shit.
Correct.
That gives me, you know how I feel about games.
Oh, we all have very similar.
Well, no, I don't have an issue. I have an issue with game designers that don't know how to art or program.
100%.
Well. Because
To be
then
a game designer, you need to do both of them first.
Because then they boss you around and they have no idea what they're talking about. And I have this horrible toxic trait where I won't listen to anyone who I think isn't as good an artist as me, which isn't good. Which isn't a good thing.
No,
well,
it's not.
Less now, definitely at AIE.
Yeah.
100% less now. But I was like, if I don't trust that you have any artistic capability or you have like an eye, you don't have to be a good artist. You just have to have a good eye.
Yeah.
And if I can like judge that you don't have a good eye, because I've like seen this level design that you've given me for like, it's meant to be a plane hanger and it's like, it looks like a hedge maze. And I'm like, you obviously don't, I just won't listen to you.
I get
I'm
it.
like, if I did it the way you wanted me to do it, it would be bad.
Yeah.
So like, why would I do that?
I was very lucky. I only worked with good designers and I was also in hospital a lot. So, but no, I saw a lot of that and I 100% agree.
Yeah.
If you know what you're talking about, where I work now, I get told all sorts of bullshit. It's just basic knowledge, if you know what you're talking about, listening to people who don't is infuriating.
And if you're paying me, I can do it.
Exactly.
If I'm not getting paid to listen to you, then why would I bother listening?
I'm here I'm paying to be here.
Yeah. Like feel like as soon as there's a paycheck involved, I just like clamp down my own creative process and I'm just like, all right, I'll do it how you want me to do it.
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting paid to do.
Give me the money.
But oh god, student work was not fun.
I had lots of fun.
I feel like I've come a long way. I just remember our shared teacher that we both know who you're good friends with. At the end, I was like, do you have any feedback for me? And he's like, you're very critical. And I remember being like, why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, yeah.
But I was like, I guess he was trying to say like my delivery of my criticism was not... I try to do like a criticism sandwich, but I'm like, why should I have to sugarcoat it? I'm just giving you I'm giving you constructive criticism. I'm never just like, oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
Like, I think of like the designers I worked with. I've never just like, oh, that's shit. Just redo it. I was always like asking. I was like, so like, why did you do it? This, like, have you thought about when people try to do this that might not? Like I was always like posing them questions to like explain to me why you've made this choice, because if there's a reason why you've made it, then I'm like, cool, I just didn't like understand it at the first viewing. So I was always just like a questioner. I was like, okay, why did you do it this way, blah blah blah, and then they would get really offended.
People are fragile.
Yeah,
it's one of the things I learned becoming a manager is you've got to talk to people the way they want to be talked to, even if you're there to shit on them.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at it at the moment because I hate my job. So I just tell people they're assholes all the time. But you learn, you got to it's so annoying. You got to come around it in a long-winded way to make people... It's about keeping people on your side because you're a team and it's really hard to do that.
I guess like because it was like
good at it.
A student project and I knew we'd never work together afterwards.
Exactly.
It was like when there's money involved and like you have to work with those people.
You tend to,
you act differently.
You build those...
But part of me, I don't want to play the sexism card, but part of me just feel like if I was a guy asking you these questions, you just...
Oh, 100%.
You just answer them.
As a male at that school, I'll tell you 100%.
Yeah, just...
The shit that I saw not only you, but the designer I worked with go through.
Yeah.
100%.
It's like... I mean, they see my work. They obviously know that I'm, a competent artist.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, so why does my feedback on your like how this it might affect the artistic?
Because you're a gamer girl.
I'm a gamer girl.
Yeah, you're only here to play Overwatch.
Yeah, but like I remember in the interview for the school, they were like, "What do you do in your free time?" And I was like, "I draw. I do art." And he's like, "Oh, good. That's the trick question we ask because most people say play video games.
Yeah,
and we have to be like, but this isn't a school about playing video games." Anyway, we always descend into bitching about game dev.
Right.
Whenever we're in
I'll never forget that interview.
I'll never let it go. It hurt me.
I walked into that interview as a physics student who was failing pretty bad because I had undiagnosed dyslexia. And then the man said, "You're exactly the kind of person we want here. I'll see you next year." I went back to high school and dropped to baseline accredited and smoked weed for the next 12 months.
Do you regret that, or do you
Not
think that was a good?
I would be my friends who didn't have that opportunity, who
Mhm.
went through tertiary, who are now working at KFC or
Right.
retail, who have multiple mental issues. I think I got out of it pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't recommend at all doing what I did and bumming through year 11 and 12. Work hard. I'm very, very lucky that I went to a very good school and was supported by very good teachers.
Yeah.
Not all of them. Most of them were
Yes,
assholes, but I had
yes.
about 4 or 5 really, really good teachers who looked after me. And then I also had a father who taught me how to manage business from the age of 14. So I always had that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
But
That's
Yeah.
because I did not think I was going to go and do game dev. I was like, of all my siblings, I was like the academically minded one.
Yeah.
And so my year 11 and 12 was like the absolute grind to get the highest ATAR like physically possible. And I did all right. All I'll say is that when they had the list of all the ATARs, I was in the first A4 page.
Very nice.
Which was like, I was at the bottom of the page.
That's
but
fine.
I was like, I was on the first page. That's all I cared about. Was like, I was on the top page.
To put into perspective, my best friend was 5th
Oh, nice.
in the ACT.
Yeah, I never aimed that high. I was realistic because also, you know my. There were barriers to me achieving my full academic
100%.
potential that I was unaware of.
Yeah.
But then I went to uni and it was horrible. And I had like my first. I'd never had like anxiety attacks before. I had like 3 anxiety attacks in like one really bad year of uni. Like it was horrible. And like I was meant to finish it in 3 years. I stretched it to 4 years because I like wasn't coping and I had to like dropped a few courses and like pushed them into a 4th year where I had like a half course.
Yeah.
And while I did that, the last year I started AIE because I was like, if I don't start doing game development or something that I'm passionate about, I was like, I will not be able to finish like my uni degree. Like I was getting to the point where I was like, I hate this. I hate my life. Like, it was really bad.
100%.
And it's like because I did psychology and like I love psychology and science. I hated
everything
like,
else
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the first year of uni, they use like the best lecturers for the first year course, all the introductory courses. They use the really charismatic
Get you
people that are
excited.
really good at like delivering content. And
You're not wasting your money.
You feel really good and you're like, you have a great like first year. And then second year, they're like, okay, here's the PhD student that doesn't like to talk to people and they're delivering your course content.
Yeah. And they will not answer anything.
They will not answer any of your questions. They just read from a script. They're just reading their PowerPoint. And then that's the remaining 3 years that you do. And occasionally you'll have like someone who's like completed their doctorate and they're a good speaker, but they're very like, I would fall asleep during lectures.
Yeah.
And I think she noticed and she hated me. And I was like, I'm sorry, but you're speaking for 2 hours and you're just reading a script.
Yeah.
I'm going to just fall asleep to the sound of your voice.
Right. I fell asleep at game dev school a few times.
Did you?
Yeah.
Like at the computer? Or
Yeah,
like...
but I was working. So we'd study end of the week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I work Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday nights till 4 a.m. And then I'd get home, fall asleep, and then wake up at 8 to get to the other side of Canberra. So yeah.
I have this unfortunate ability to fall asleep at like really inappropriate moments. Like I worked at a job. Like when I need to sleep, nothing will stop me from sleeping. If my like body, no social parameters.
I'm so keen to do a 24-hour stream and you just fall asleep mid-stream. That'll be great.
I will. Like I was in. Okay, if this is the worst moment I ever fall asleep. To understand like the moments in which I'm willing to fall asleep. So I had a very serious job as like a program coordinator for like a youth ambassador. It was like way higher above my skill level than I should have been doing at the age that I was. It was like as I started uni, they were like, run this statewide program. And I was like, okay. And we worked out of the Center for Mental Health Research, like at the university. So it was all serious PhD students, and I just had this random office with like my name on it. And I went to like a meeting for the center. And I shouldn't have, there was no reason for me to go. I wasn't like doing research. It wasn't like relevant to me, but they were like, I'll come to the meeting. And I was like, okay. So I came to the meeting, immediately realized there was no point in me being there. And then at the end of the meeting, they were like, oh, we always have a PhD student give a talk at the end of the meeting. And they were like, you can go if you want to, but like, I wanted to be polite. So I was like, sure, I'll come. And I sat there for 30 minutes as this boring man spoke about how to best optimize your surveys for when you do psychological research surveys. Like, it was just the driest content.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was a room full, like, we were all in a single line of chairs directly in front of him. And I was in the middle of, like, I had 3 people on either side of me in the middle of him as he was giving this presentation. And you generally look in the middle.
Yeah.
When you give a presentation, you like, but you're mainly looking at the middle of the room. So looking directly at me. And I fell asleep.
I'm not surprised. I want to fall asleep now you explaining
I
it.
had to hold, I was like, had my arms crossed and I was pinching myself. I was trying so hard to not fall asleep in front of this man. Because, like, he seemed nervous. He didn't seem like public speaking was his forte.
If you write a speech about survey improvement,
Yes.
my brother.
And so I probably bled trying to stay awake for this man's soul to not upset him. And I went like 8 times in a row.
Oh, God.
And then whenever he walked past me in the hall, he always glared at me.
Yeah, good.
And I was like, I'm sorry.
Maybe find another life passion because surveys aren't it, brother. I mean,
Sur-
someone
surveys-
needs to do it.
No, surveys are his life passion. Public speaking about
not.
them are not his life
true.
passion. But if I could fall asleep, that is like the worst moment
To
you
fall
could,
asleep.
You could fall asleep. So when I need to fall asleep, I will fall asleep. So
I fell asleep so it probably seemed amazing when we got to the school we all met.
yeah.
And we were sitting in lectures with very accomplished game developers. And the best one we ever did was a musician who had done music for games in the BioShock franchise. And we were in a very dark room. It was the middle of winter. The heater was on. And I fell asleep because I had worked a massive shift because it was Friday and that Thursday I'd worked. I felt so bad. That man was so interesting.
You're like, I actually wanted to listen to this content. Actually.
Right?
Yeah.
And because, as you mentioned, I was quite good friends with the lecturer, I slept on his shoulder, our teacher, sorry. And he did not stop giving me shit for it, but he knew my social situation. It was an incredible talk for what I can remember.
I don't remember that
It was,
talk.
he,
Was I not there that day?
I can't remember because I was asleep.
Yeah.
But he did the music for BioShock 1, and he did the one part I can remember is he did the breakdown of and I'm going to sound like a dick, it's been years since I played. You fight a guy in an opera theater, and the music changes depending on how you fight him. And he broke down how he worked with a programmer to do that. And he's like, I'm a musician by trade and learning how to do game dev. That got me into it. And he's worked in games ever since. That was incredible. Do not remember anything else he talked about. And he worked on a bunch of games.
I think I missed that.
It was probably one of the best lectures we ever went to.
Yeah, I think they promised that they would bring in a lot of a lot of seasoned developers to give talks.
Fortnite.
Game devs. I don't think they ever followed through very much. That must have been the only time. And the only other time was when our teacher did like a course with someone, and he asked him, "Would you be willing to give a talk to my students?" And he was like, "Sure, man." And he like did it as like for free, just as like to help.
That was good.
Just to like help out students, like, and that was a nice thing. But that wasn't the school. That was like our teacher
Who had
that.
we won't go into how shit the school was. Speaking of Fortnite, did you do the competition when we were at?
No.
There was an Unreal competition before Fortnite was dropped when it was still the where you could make assets for it.
No.
I did like 5 rocks.
Yeah.
And I'm 90% sure my rocks are currently in Fortnite.
You were a game dev on Fortnite?
Yeah,
That's what
right.
you're telling me?
Well, they were doing stuff for it was
That's amazing.
Unreal Asset Store, and there was competition, and you just had to make cartoony assets.
Right.
And then it was in the description saying we're going to be using this in the next update for our horde survival game Fortnite, because not a lot of people remember that Fortnite was a horde survival. And yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So it was just a shit competition to let us farm out assets.
100%.
Nerds.
That's how Unreal makes all their money.
So you didn't
Farming
get like a
nerds.
credit or anything? Like, did you win? Was there a prize for the best asset?
No, I just submitted.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I would have done
Yeah, that was end of first year. I was helping some second years with their final game, and they showed me it.
Right. How'd you do that? Why were you helping the second year?
Because they thought I was good at art.
Right.
I wasn't.
True, isn't it?
No, I'm atrocious at art. I just faked my way with my charisma.
Yeah. I think the second years knew of me because on the Wednesday when we had the half day,
Yeah.
I would come in the morning because we had the afternoon. I would just spend that day there because I was like, what else am I going to do in like the start of the afternoon? Like I'd come in like at 10 o'clock so I could sleep in. And so they would see like the art that I was doing. But
Yeah, no. Our teacher just came up and he said to me and a friend and was like, "There's a team that need help because half of their artists have just quit.
Oh no.
Do you want to come do it?" And I did it, and we got a communist in the chat.
Oh,
I'm not reading that.
That actually segues really well into the psychological experiment that I want to talk to you about.
Vive la revolution.
Vive la révolution.
Do it.
Vive la France. What's a good way to segue into it? Okay.
You like psychology?
I did like psychology.
I'll be honest, I don't. So
I decided I was going to be a psychologist like in year 10.
yeah,
I don't know why. Like maybe I did a quiz that it was like, what's the best career for you? I don't know. I just learnt
I
about
got
it.
Binman. So.
You did. I think I got police officer
Oh,
or psychologist.
yuck.
And I didn't want to be a pig, so I was like, fuck that.
Yeah, ACAB.
I didn't because we didn't do psychology in high school.
No.
There wasn't a course that so I don't know how I think it just sounded fancy. And I was
Fancy.
like, sounds like something a smart person would do.
Everyone loves Freud.
Yeah. No, I hate Freud. God.
I just love his first name, Sigmund.
Sigmund. And so in college, I did it as like an elective,
Mhm.
and I really liked it. The teacher, it was really good, and so then I went on. But all that I like about psychology is just really weird, obscure experiments that no one's heard about. So this one, I don't think it's actually called this. I think it's just been dubbed this by the general populace. But it's called Universe 25.
I love that name.
Right? So there's a guy in Maryland. He's like,
Love it.
I think he's like a 7-day
Adventist.
Adventist. I don't know, but he always quotes like Bible verses in his papers, and I'm like, this does not bode
Love
well
it.
for a scientific study. But
Love it.
the thing with psychology, it's very like
Remind me to come back to
sociology.
religion. Anyway, continue.
It's very like sociology, psychology, that like can sometimes go like very hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I think he's more of like a sociologist than a psychologist.
Would you consider him a theologist? Because that's what I studied in high school.
I mean, considering the conclusions that he drew from this, I think he's more of a capitalist.
Oh, fuck yeah. My favorite
From this
kind of
study.
people.
But so it was called Universe 25. And so he hypothesized there are like 5 things that will kill a species.
Yeah.
And he defined like the 5 causes of death. And the first one was immigration. So like, he's like, they're not dying, but they've left the population. So they're, in terms of the population size, they've died.
Immigration or emigration?
He spelled it with an E.
Emigration.
Yeah.
So leaving a place.
Leaving a place, yeah.
I was going to say, if he's starting off with the death of people as immigration, this is going a place that I'm not ready for.
That's my mild childhood dyslexia.
Dyslexia gang, rise up.
So that was one of the causes. The other one's like the ones you'd expect, like weather, food, what was it?
Plague.
Yeah, disease and predators, right? So that's like the 5. And so he was like, okay, what if I create a universe where those 5 factors aren't factors anymore? So a solution for all those factors. So immigration, it's a closed system, closed universe, they can't leave.
Yep.
Makes sense. Just build a wall. No one can get out. Food, just make sure they have access to food. Predation, there's no predators in the environment. Disease, but obviously you can't do this with people because he wanted to see what would happen if you created an environment where those 5 causes of death didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
What would happen to the population or the species in the event where nothing could kill them except old age? That's what he wanted to look into. So you can't do that with people, obviously. You can't herd them into a box, but you can do it with mice. So he built this, it was like 1.5 meter tall and then like 2 by 2.5 by 2.5 box.
Yeah.
And it had a big empty space in the middle, and it had chutes where the food would come down. Have you heard of this?
In the Mouse Utopia.
The Mouse Utopia.
Yeah.
And he would have the apartment boxes
Yeah.
so they could go up
Yeah.
to use up the space, right? Oh, now you've heard of it. It's not as exciting. But
Did you know who
people-
Frederick Knudsen is?
No.
He does a really good documentary on it.
Oh,
And
what
there's
a shame.
the omegas and sigmas and all that start forming.
Oh,
Keep going. I'm very
yeah,
interested.
the paper doesn't define it that way.
Yeah.
But I think people
In
took the
future.
study and then
Yeah, they were the pretty
Cool.
boys who
Yes.
would groom the males but wouldn't
Yes.
interfere with the females.
Yes,
And,
so
yeah.
he's like, what happens when you build this perfect society? And I think the box could hold up to 6,000 mice or something
Yeah.
at its capacity. That was when there wouldn't be enough space for all the mice to nest and whatever. But the population never got over like 900, I think.
Yeah.
And so he broke it down into like the different phases of the experiment. So phase B, I don't know what phase A was, but he starts with phase B, is the growth stage. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just started with 4 pairs of mice.
Mhm.
And so it took, they were like babies, so they had to reach full maturity. And then I think they had their first litter after like 100 days. And then there was that period where every 55 days the population doubled.
Yeah.
So just like boomed, like they were just filling up the space, using all the food. And then very quickly after that is phase C, which is like the death of social structure for the mice, which is essentially they have, I think the main of all the 5 causes of death, the one that affected like social hierarchies the most was the ability to leave.
Yeah.
Because if the mice can't leave, then there's only like a certain number of roles that they can fulfill within like the group
Yeah.
that get filled. And so when you have all like the territorial males, the big alpha males, and I don't think mice have like a high, very detailed hierarchy, but when all those roles are filled, the mice have nothing to do.
Yeah.
And so they had, you talked about like the beautiful males, but
Yeah.
I think what happened first was all the males that couldn't fill the role of like a territorial male, they would just congregate at in the middle of the ring. So like you had all the square with all the like apartments, he called them, and then there was the middle of it where there was like no, and they would all congregate there and just, they would ignore the territorial males, they would ignore the females, they would just fight each other. But the thing that was weird is because they couldn't flee to anywhere, they would just lay there and let them attack them. Like they didn't fight back, they didn't like run away.
Yeah.
They would just lay still as they were like viciously attacked, and then would go and attack another mice in a different. It was super weird.
Just terrifying.
Yeah, like just weird behaviors that
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
expect out of mice. And so they'd be covered in like scars. They were like super rough, and they would just eat and fight and live their lives, right?
Yeah.
And then as it like kept descending, like further and further along in the studies, the females would also like, they would have the ones that would stay at the bottom and have like all their broods. And then they would have the ones that would go to the top and just ignore everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just like lived up in the top apartments by themselves, not bothered. And like over time, the litter sizes decreased.
Yep.
Because the territorial males that did still exist, like the alpha males, started being very like negligent in their like duties. Like they didn't really care. And so then the females that were having babies had to become very aggressive. And that was like generalized not only to people trying to get into their nests, but their own children. So they'd be like very aggressive to their children, and they left like on average 7 days earlier from the nest than you would expect mice to leave, because they were like, mum's a bitch, and they go out on their own. Like, fuck this, I'm moving out at 16. Kind of like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And as a result, they didn't develop appropriate like social relationships with mice. So when they went out into the world, into this universe, not really the world, this confined space, they weren't socializing the way that they should have. And it was like this flow-on effect, because they had like shitty mums and shitty dads and a shitty world that they lived in. And so then the number of babies was getting like smaller and smaller. And then it moves on to phase C, which is just called death. It's just called death because they just all start dying off.
Fucking hell.
And then you have the beautiful males that would not live in the bottom. They would just like live at the top, and because they weren't fighting, they just had, all they cared about, all they did was eat, sleep, and groom. That was all they had to do. And so they just kept themselves beautiful, and they weren't interested in the females. And then also the females weren't interested in anyone. So they had these 2 groups that just weren't interested in procreating. And then it just tanked. And the thing that he was interesting was, he was like, generally when you see this in a population and it like you get a few groups left, right? Usually a couple of them will reignite and like sort of go off and
do something else.
Yeah, do something else, and the population.
The Romans came from the Greeks, kind of thing.
Yeah. But that just like didn't happen because they had nowhere to go. And he tried in that phase, in phase D, where he had all these like reproductive ready males and females that weren't reproducing. He tried taking them out into a new universe, and they still just weren't interested in doing it. They just went off and did their own thing. And then eventually, I think it was like he predicted that by like the 1,700th day they would all be dead.
Yeah,
And
wow.
they just weren't like, I don't think he played it out to the end. I think he might have euthanized them beforehand because he was like, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But you want to know, have a guess what conclusions he drew from that experiment. So I've outlined, you're already familiar with it, the people at home might not have been.
I don't remember the conclusions. I just remember thinking that was fucked.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Women deserve to rule the world and men should be pretty.
Yeah, that's it. I think it has very interesting parallels to like society nowadays where younger people aren't as interested in having families anymore.
Yeah, for
And you
sure.
have like, is it in Japan? Like there's a whole
tanking.
culture of men that just live by themselves. They're like hermits. I think they have a
Yeah.
word for it. I'm sure it's more complicated than it's been labeled, but and also like in China, like the career women that aren't interested in
Yeah.
getting married or having children. And so it does sort of highlight, I think, this like phenomenon that we're seeing at the moment of like people just going off and doing their own thing.
Of course.
Because the more you don't have to fight for resources,
Yeah.
the more like you languish, I think.
Oh, for sure.
And so like I think it's interesting in terms of like the future of where there's no food insecurity anymore. We have like machines that, you know, in Star Trek where you like just plug in what you want and it just
It
gives
gives
it
you
to you.
it. Yeah.
And like I think they sort of touched on it in Star Trek. There's no money in
Yeah.
Star Trek anymore. You don't need a job for anything other than the prestige and like the value of doing work.
Contribution to society.
Contribution to society.
Soft communism.
Which I think is what the mice didn't have. Like
Yeah.
the mice couldn't make music and do art and like do, you know, which we have. So
Of
I don't
course.
think. But that's not the conclusions he drew.
No, of course not.
The conclusion that
He's
he
a psychologist.
Well,
You'll
he's
say it's about
also
penises
He's
or
also
something.
a religious,
Oh.
a heavily religious
So
psychologist
if there was a religious figure,
that-
everything would have been normal.
that hates the welfare state.
Right.
So he was like, if we have a thriving welfare system
Yeah.
where we provide everything to the poor, they'll just languish and die. That was like what he took away from it, was that we shouldn't have a welfare
Yeah,
system.
go for it, my guy.
And
Fucking
he
hell.
was heavily criticized for like anthropomorphizing the mice and
Right.
like assuming that the way that the mice behave is how humans would behave.
Right.
But that's what he took away from it.
There was a really good scientific thing that was the breaking between testing on mice and psychologically testing on mice. We can medically test on mice because their cellular structure is similar to ours. We can't really psychologically test on mice because they're fucking animals and we aren't. Very interesting.
They'll do it though. They do it a lot for like conditioning and
100%. Well, I surprise, read a lot about LSD testing on mice in the 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
there's
And
a
they're
whole,
really good at testing drugs and how they affect the human brain.
there's a whole like subculture of, I can't remember what they're called. I think they're like designer mice.
Yeah.
But this like scientific community, because they breed certain genetic abnormalities in the mice that make them useful for like cancer research or like, so they like design the mice for the experiment specifically, and it's like this whole like immoral
Yeah.
thing, and also they charge a lot of money for them and like
Like the head twitch response when you feed a rat LSD, it'll twitch its head, but it's not a natural trait. They've bred mice to do that.
Right.
So, yeah, that's how they can tell if a rat's tripping. So it twitches its head like that. One eye blinks and it twitches.
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Idiocracy?
That sounds familiar.
It's a movie that got absolutely smashed when it came out. Mike Judd, the guy who did King of the Hill. It is
Let me just see.
absolutely incredible. I highly recommend it now. It's basically predicted what's happened to the world.
No.
Two people, a soldier and a prostitute, get frozen and they were meant to wake up, I think it was 30 years later, but they end up waking 300 years later. And the beginning of the movie shows two couples and a highly educated male and female couple and a trailer trash guy. And the male and female intelligent business people keep putting off having a kid so much that they never have a kid because the time isn't right. But then they show the family tree of the idiot and he's got 70 offspring by the end of his life.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of that prediction that the
Yes.
de-evolution of idiots and the welfare state take over the world.
Yes.
And it's really funny. Like they elect a wrestler as the president and he's played by big strong guy.
So in 300 years, everyone's stupid. That's the,
Yes,
right.
they stopped drinking water
Right.
because the people who make Gatorade have brainwashed everyone into thinking Gatorade's better for you than
Right,
water, so no
right.
one drinks water. They all eat Doritos. It's hilarious. I highly recommend watching it. It's a satire on the evolution of humanity. It's really
But
good.
like working in a school system like I
Mm.
did, I completely see that.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
I work in a bar, so I see
Yeah.
the parents of those kids.
yeah,
And
it's just like I think there's this weird thing where I don't know if it's the patriarchy convincing me of this,
Mm.
but I feel like it's my duty to have children because they'll be, I hope they will be creative and kind and smart
yeah,
and contribute to society. And I don't know if that's like,
here's a deep question that I don't
Yeah.
have an answer
is
for.
it like
is
the
it
patriarchy telling me I should make babies, be wife?
or is it evolution?
Or is it evolution telling me like I
I'm
have
not
to
smart
do
enough to
my
answer
part
that.
to save the human race?
Continue the human race. I am the only one of two of our species that can do
Yeah.
it.
And the thing is, like, I don't think I'm not this. What would it be called? So, like the people who assume that those children of those parents don't have value. I 100%
Everyone has values. Yeah.
I like, especially because I worked with very, very young children.
Yeah.
I saw like the potential of those children if certain things went their way, like certain things in life worked out, they could be wonderful members of society.
Mhm.
But because they live in the environment that they do,
Below a certain pay grade and
there's a higher risk of those things not lining up and working out for them.
100%.
And then the result is that.
That's
you know,
why
the
education's so
system-
important.
Exactly, yeah. But it was hard because you would see these kids from like really, really rough families, and you're like, oh, if your parents just like had a better life themselves and weren't like stuck in that cycle, like you are such like a naturally kind and wonderful person that in 3 years that will probably be gone.
Yeah.
But you're still young enough that it's not, those other behaviors haven't overridden what's like truly there at your core. Because
Yeah.
like a 4-year-old can't lie about who they really are.
Mhm.
Like an
They haven't learned
8-year-old
it yet.
can pretend to be crueler than they really want to be, or like they
Yes.
can lie and manipulate. But a 4-year-old can't do that. And so like you think, like I remember we had this one, if you looked at him, you would think, oh, when he's in year 6, he's going to be the biggest, toughest bully that's ever existed. But at 4 years old, he liked to wear dresses.
Yeah.
He would wear the princess dresses, and yes, he was really aggressive and had like a lot of behavioral issues, but there was also this really kind and like soft part of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is gonna disappear in the next 4 years, like very quickly.
I don't know if it's
remarkably quickly, and it's just sad.
if it's specifically an Australian thing, but what's up, Noah?
Hello,
How you doing,
hello.
man? I don't know if it's specifically Australian, but we definitely have a culture of training that out of kids. You know,
Yeah.
you got to be tough. You got to be able to fight. You got to be able to take a punch by the time like you're 12. My parents didn't contribute that to me at all. It was just
Yes.
I went to an all boys school, so
It got like,
you're meant to
I
know
think
how to fight. You're meant to know how to hide your true feelings and
Yeah.
intentions. And
I
I don't know
think
if that's an
it's better.
Australian thing.
yeah,
or
I
what.
think the public, we're getting very dark.
Yeah, we'll
I think
probably ease up soon.
the public school system is better than it used to be, because like
Yeah.
in our preschool that was definitely not the case. It
Yes.
was like wear whatever you wanted, do whatever you wanted, no one cares, play with whatever toys, like. But I think us growing up, that was not.
Well, I kind of
Okay.
touched on it last podcast, but my nickname at primary school and high school was the F slur
Oh,
because I was a
no.
dancer.
Yeah.
I wasn't open about my sexuality back then. I said I was straight. I
Mhm.
didn't know that I was bi back then.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was just my nickname at school.
Yeah.
Teachers called me that.
That's
It's only like
weird.
7 years
That's
ago.
not very long ago.
No, it's not. It has changed a lot since. I know a
Yes.
lot. I was, at the time, there was one other dancer. He was a lot older than me,
Mhm.
and he was openly gay.
Mhm.
I knew him through outside of school dance, and he was a very troubled individual.
Mm.
He's fine now. He's, making millions on Broadway.
Nice, good on you.
But when I was in his year, there was like 7 or 8 kids who were also dancers.
Mm.
None of them got shit, but I still got it. And it's just
Right.
because there was that shift. I'm not saying I had anything to do with it, but there was definitely a shift while we were at school.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Yes,
but-
I think the acceptance of different sexualities and like gender identities just started happening
as we were
when
leaving.
we were I think because I'm a bit older than
Yeah.
you, for me it was sort of like year 8, 9, like year 7 I think was, but it's shifted from year 7 to year 10.
Mhm.
The acceptance levels, I don't know what happened. I would be interested in reading a paper about like what occurred in that time period.
And then add
caused
10
that
years onto
shift.
it, and that's when it went to Catholic all boys school.
Yeah, you're about 10 years behind the rest of the world.
100%.
That's fair.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Let's change the subject.
it's dark. I like getting dark.
I like
maybe
getting dark too. Speaking of dark, fuck Elon Musk.
sometimes. I've seen only
Hydrate. I'm the only one with water.
Oh, I don't have any.
Hydrate.
I just drink my own moisture in my mouth. Delicious.
Oh, can't drink.
I
I'm a
haven't
rat
seen-
in a utopia.
Aren't we all rats in the utopia? I haven't seen much. I just saw that he fired everyone. Do you know more
Yeah.
about what's happening?
Yeah,
You're all over it?
I've been off work this week sick, so I've just been on my phone watching all the drama unfold. He fired a lot of people.
Like half, I heard?
I think more. He's
Right.
fired 75% of the moderation team, who are the
Wow.
only ones appeasing advertisers. So he's lost revenue.
Yeah.
I watched a really good documentary exchange
Yeah.
from an American advertising firm, basically saying, "Sorry, Musk, you fucked it.
Yeah.
You fired the people we talked to about
Right.
ensuring our ads aren't displayed under Nazi rhetoric.
Right.
We're gone."
Yeah.
And he's blaming the woke left because they, told the advertisers that you can say the N-word on Twitter now. When in hindsight, it's because Musk's fired all the people that they were working
That would
with.
be deleting those tweets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's going to charge $8 a month for the verification.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that you still had to be verified and then pay the subscription.
Right.
But it's not. Anyone
Just
can pay. Which opens up this massive can of fish that is going to end in lawsuits.
People pretending. I saw someone who called themselves, instead of Elon Musk, it was like Egon Musk. And it was like, I can't see this having any ramifications.
Yeah.
And it had the blue tick, like,
Well, there's just,
changed one letter.
if you change your name to Elon Musk and put his profile picture and you're a verified user, you'll be suspended by the end of the day.
Right,
So much for his free speech.
Yeah.
But Rahul Kohli, my absolute hero, please come on the show when we're big and famous. He posted a really good thing. He's not going to pay it. He fucking hates Musk. He said that while I'm off this social media, some dickhead is going to create an account called Rahul Kohli with something spelt different, get a check mark, and then start sending child porn to underage girls.
Right, yeah.
And
As you do.
and he's like, I've got absolutely all the defense in the world because I've deleted all my accounts and it's not me.
Yeah.
So all Musk has opened up is lawsuits.
Yeah.
People are going to get abused, harassed, and
So if
possibly
you-
killed because he's getting rid of verification. Because people trust a check mark.
Yeah. So if you already had it, like let's say you're Taylor Swift
Mm-hmm.
and you already have your check mark,
Mhm.
if you don't want to pay it,
You got to pay
it
it.
disappears.
Yep.
So Taylor Swift could hypothetically not be verified on.
If she doesn't pay the $8.
Imagine all the catfishing.
That's what Rahul was saying is the catfishing is going,
Yeah.
he said, potentially kill people. So,
Like people get convinced that Katy Perry's talking to them anyway.
yeah.
Like I
Oh.
remember seeing that on like a catfish episode.
There's,
He thought his girlfriend was Katy Perry.
YouTubers with like 100,000 subscribers who get messages saying, I've moved to LA, where are you? And you've blocked me as soon as I moved here. And they're like, what the fuck? I've never spoken to you in my life. Just someone using their profile picture and name on a dating website.
Right.
And it happens a lot.
Oh, because you pick someone who's not famous enough that it's
Yeah, you just pick anyone
the suspect. You
Yeah.
pick someone who's just famous enough
and
that
then
you would
pry
be,
on
like,
their fans.
excited to talk to them. Oh, that's crazy.
I can't wait for someone to get New York Times, but spelt Times with a 1 or an L, and then just verify it and start posting like, yep, the world's ending. Sorry, this is a verified
Would it be a
newspaper.
lie?
No, but just go out and fuck everyone on the street. The world's
So
ending.
I could finally have the blue tick.
Yeah, if you're willing to pay $8 a month, which it'll be closer to what, $14 for us.
Yeah, true. I think I read somewhere that he justified all the layoffs because Twitter loses $4 million a day or something.
It's something. It runs at a loss, yeah,
Right.
but it's now running at a greater loss.
Running at a bigger loss. I mean, I guess the person who sold it got out. Who was the seller of who owned Twitter before Elon Musk?
It was. But the guys who created it, Jack Dorsey left because he saw this all coming and he took his billions and he's gone. The former CEO, did you hear about that? The former CEO and the CFO were told they'd get a $40 million leaving bonus when Elon took over if they were fired with just cause, and he didn't have just cause, so they didn't have to get paid. So they've lost all their money. Also, he's got a class action lawsuit brewing because he fired all those people without warning. And in America, you have to give the Warns Act, which is 60 days notice for more than 50 people in a mass firing. And he fired like 125 people with no warning.
I
So
saw him say like he gave double the severance that was legally required. For
you
him
meant to pay
something.
$500 a day for 60 days.
Yeah.
So he did not pay anything close to that.
Right. I thought he said like he gave them 3 months severance, and he was like, "That's double what like is required of me to give or something." But,
It's closer to 6 months.
right.
So he's fucked. It's going to cost him millions.
Good on him.
Oh, I hate Elon. It sucks because being someone who loves space
Yeah.
and renewable energy, will go out and say that I consider myself a fan of that because I am.
Yes.
In like 2012, when he started Tesla and SpaceX, and he said, "I'm going to put a human on Mars in 2022."
You were like, "I love this man."
Yeah, and make affordable, cheap electrical cars. Fast forward to 2022, he's created a very expensive shit box that is more toxic than petrol because lithium is killing more people than petrol.
Dang. I haven't gone into the electric car.
I
conspiracy
fucking hate
yet.
Teslas.
Yeah.
They're my least favorite car. Not only does every Tesla, I've almost been killed by a Tesla driver every time I go on the road. I don't know why. They're always 60-year-old dudes who can't see. I hate
You
Teslas
wouldn't think
so
boomers
much.
would be the primary market. of
They
Teslas.
seem to be.
Yeah, it's just
well,
because it's expensive and it's a status.
Well, exactly. And they're terrible. They're so badly built. It's disgusting. And then SpaceX is just NASA's bitch, which is great because NASA can focus more on NASA can focus more on the cool shit like the space telescopes, while he's just running shit to the space station. He's nowhere close to landing on a planet.
I have an obsession with the idea of interstellar travel.
Yeah.
And like, okay, what was that movie with
Interstellar podcast. Let's
with-
go. I know a lot about
with,
propulsion and
the movie with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence?
Passenger. I had a conversation about that yesterday with my
So,
partner.
That to me, that movie could have been amazing if they just took out all the romance and it just focused on the idea of 5,000 people sent to the, that concept to me. I've asked Harry, I was like, would you, if we could like cryogenically sleep and it took 400 years to get there, like, would you do it? And he's like, nah. And I'm like, I'm so keen.
I'm on there with you.
Yeah, I'm so keen to go. And there's also like the idea that, let's say you're the first wave of colonists, right? That in the 200 years it takes you to get there, they've built a faster ship and you arrive and there's already an established population.
Very
there.
possible.
The
Martian is so good. I'm rereading it at the moment. I've read
The Martian.
It's so good. His newest book is nowhere near as good.
No, it's very obvious in The Martian that he had a lot of consultations with people that know how space machines work.
Yes. He worked with the crew who were building the Mars landing arena or whatever
and
it's called.
he wrote it in a way that I was like, oh yeah, I understand about the
Yes.
axle and the wheel. Like I get what's happening with this.
So
machine.
back to the beginning of the podcast. What I was going to study was orbital mechanics.
Right.
I was going to do physics and then do astronomy, aerotech engineering or whatever it's called here, and then move into do a master's and a doctorate in orbital mechanics because it's one of the few things my dyslexic brain understands. I know how orbital mechanics work. So interstellar propulsion is all up my shit. I love it. Yeah. I've been recently rewatching Archer, and the episode in space might be my favorite.
I haven't seen
You need to watch Archer. It's amazing.
What interests me about the idea of a colony starting on another planet is like this, I guess, because my psychology background is the ways in which it will go to shit and be like Jamestown in America.
100%.
And we just end up eating each other.
Yeah.
That is very interesting to me. And I kind of...
It's got to be a slow process.
I want to be able to that to happen so you can study it.
Yeah.
But also whether it would happen or not.
See, the problem is I don't want them to put psychologists and anthropologists because then it'll just turn into an experiment.
True.
Let the engineers and the scientists and you know what, the first
But
people that need to be
psychology is a
sent.
science.
Nah, fuck you.
It is a science.
Farmers need to be the first person to go there.
Yeah.
I just send a bunch of cowboys, tradesmen, and because that way we have a real sick pub culture when we get to the moon or wherever we're going. But no, there definitely needs to be one of every kind of scientist there that just get to argue while the carpenters build the houses.
Yeah. I like given
Yes, Space Cowboys.
given the amount of statistics I had to do in psychology, I get very upset when someone implies it's not a science.
It's a real
I was like,
100%. It's a science.
You
It's
know
probably
how much math I had to do if this isn't a science? If I could just write whatever I wanted and didn't have to justify it, it'd be so much easier.
it's probably one of the most important sciences at the moment.
It is interesting. It is. I wish I could be back into it. I feel like there's so many interesting, like if I had gone down that path and been a PhD student, like there's so many things.
If you do business
People
psychology, it's probably one of them. I think it's one of the most sought after jobs. Multi-billion-dollar companies want
Industrial
them.
psychology
Yeah.
was like, actually I found that was like one of the last classes I did while
Yep.
I was like at AIE, and I found it very interesting.
Mm.
Like there was some crazy like studies and papers
Some
that
weird
people had written
stuff.
about like the way workers.
I consume way too much internet essays,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a short one about the use of signs in American factories versus communist factories,
Right.
and how the signs in communist factories led to better production. So if the Americans had have adopted those signs, but with a capitalist background,
Right.
they would have far exceeded the Soviets' production lines. And it was purely just to do with how safety signs are displayed, rosters are displayed, where you position staff members. And recently I was watching one about the Speedy system, which is what
That
happened with
sounds
McDonald's.
familiar.
When they first opened McDonald's, when the guy bought it off the family,
Yes.
they opened one restaurant and they were doing something like 100 burgers an hour, which was not enough.
Yeah.
So they shut down for 3 months. And for 3 months, they went to a tennis court and
Yes.
drew lines.
I've seen that movie.
So cool. And they figured out the best way to do it. And that is still to the day how most fast food restaurants have their grills set up. So interesting.
Yeah.
From psychology.
Yeah.
It's one that is very important.
I guess when I was
Come on now. I drink fucking 6 liters a day, man. I'm on a schedule.
I didn't have any liquids.
There's barbecue sauce down there.
Oh yeah.
Chug the barbecue sauce.
Never.
Shots?
When I was like a psych student, I don't think it was made aware how much money I could have made doing going into those
The proper fields. Yeah.
Like it was just like,
I say proper, it's not proper.
I can be like a clinical psychologist where people come into my office and sit on a couch, or I can be a research psychologist that doesn't
make millions.
Sorry.
The opposite.
For the university who doesn't make any much money.
Yeah.
They didn't really sell on the sellout route, which might
They
have
never do.
motivated me more.
100%.
But then I wouldn't have gone to AIE and I wouldn't be here today.
No one would know each other. Yeah.
That's true. So everything works out for a reason.
Correct.
I always thought.
Just think of your cool psychology friends you could have.
I know. I
And
always
your
thought
million view podcasts with them.
I would go and do like game dev or like art, and then at like 45, I would go back and do research psychology about games.
Yeah.
Because I think that's
Just make Stanley Parable too.
Yeah. Well, I watched read a very interesting psych paper that was about using VR to simulate environments that like legally and ethically you can't put people in in. But it was very obvious that the people writing the paper in like 2016 did not know any game developers, because the art quality of the VR version. So it was like
just grey boxes.
Yeah, you were in a bar and like you were drinking, and this guy starts getting aggressive with you and like threatening you, and you have to like, and you know, depending on how they react, they're measuring different things. But the guy is like literally Lara Croft, pointy boob, level quality of like literally 50 triangles for this man. And he's just like, like it's just the way, just the way he's moving.
Banjo Kazooie noises.
Yeah, it's just so. The art was so bad, and I was just like,
I mean, there's a renaissance of that art style, but maybe not in simulation.
But I guess like it was sort of disparaged in like the psychology community because they're like, well, it will never be realistic.
Yeah,
I was like, if you got like the people that make Red Dead Redemption, like if you got
paid
them,
Rockstar to do
if you
it.
paid Rockstar to make like a site, you know,
Yeah.
you could measure some fucked up things.
Some of those big companies do have offshoots. I don't think Rockstar is one of them, but I know Ubisoft and EA have simulation offshoots that are doing stuff that they don't tell the public about. So
it might have expanded. Like at that point, I think, because I did a little paper on like, I think using VR or using video games in psychology, and I think at that time period, like 2016, there was only like 5
Yeah.
VR like people using VR, because also VR wasn't big in
Yeah.
that time frame as well.
It's terrible back then.
Yeah, so like in that next couple of years was when VR got really big and accessible.
Facebook bought Vive in 2017, I believe.
Yes, and it got, so I'd be interested in going back and looking at those papers and see what's come out since then. But I found it really funny to see the little still images of like Barry, the aggressive bar guy, and he's just like a square head.
The bartender is just straight up the butler from Lara Croft 1, the one that you can always follows you. Yeah.
But it's very interesting. I also saw they used
Yeah, 100%. Ubisoft. I love walking through Ubisoft worlds, but those games I give up in about 2 days.
I saw also an application of VR for this is just interesting about talking about how video games can save the world, because I think they can. It was about people who had spinal injuries and either like partial or complete severing of like the spinal cord. And it was, it was quite a while ago, and I just feel like nothing's happened since. So maybe it was debunked, I don't know. But they would put the person in like a mechanical suit, or like a, like a chair that could move their arms and move their legs, right, for them. And they would have a VR headset where they weren't in a chair, it was just a body.
Yeah.
And so they would be like, the researcher would be like, okay, move your left hand like up and down. Like they would show them like, this are the exercises you have to do. And so they'd be like, okay, do exercise 1. So the person would be thinking, I'm moving my hand up and down. And the machine would be moving their hand up and down, and the VR headset would be showing their hand moving up and down independently of any force. Like you can't see the machine in the VR. So it was like tricking the brain into thinking that you were moving your limbs of your own free will, when in reality there was a machine doing assisted movement. But what they found is that actually helped like rebuild, like the brain is surprisingly easy to trick.
Yeah.
And in doing so, it sort of rebuild synapses that had gone because you lost the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone that they obviously they didn't do people who had like full, it was people who had partial, but I think everyone in the study regained some form of movement from doing it. And I remember when that happened, like 2018, I feel like 2017. So I don't know what happened from that offshoot.
Hopefully some big medical company bought the tech and is working on it. Hopefully not, but hopefully.
I feel like in the news you would have people being like,
I can
walk again. Like, and you don't hear those stories, which makes me think that nothing happened with it. But maybe it was too expensive. I don't know.
Almost 100% what it is. It's too expensive, and no one could make a profit off it.
Yeah, it's like it's the goodness of humanity. And how are you meant to make money off that?
Yeah, right. You can't.
Oh, VR to calm cows.
I love the
that is so cute. Feel like you put them in a beautiful field when really they're in like a
death pen.
Oh, that's kind of messed up.
There's a VR video, and I could be wrong, but and he jumps straight through his TV, and it's like a 2-meter American bougie thing, and he's going back, forth, and then jumps straight through it. Oh, I love it. I hate VR, but that's purely because I've got glasses.
Yes. I think there was a big VR boom, and everyone like overhyped it and oversold how big of a deal it was going to be.
Unfortunately, we went to a school for game design at the end of that boom.
Yes. There was that one group before us that did a VR game that did quite well, who we shan't speak of.
No.
Reasons we shan't talk about.
Negative.
If you know us in real life, we'll give you the gossip.
Yeah, come hang out at one of our AI bitching sessions.
But I think there is a lot of practical uses for VR, and also 100%. A lot of fucked up uses for VR.
I love VR porn. That's a joke. I'm being sarcastic. That's the only way it'll all succeed.
Part of me felt like I should just give up my morals and just make VR porn content, and I'd make lots of money.
100%. That's always the decision to make.
Just make sexy girls.
100%. I've come very close to just making 3D porn.
Yeah.
It's so easy to rip the assets. Wasn't it? So when Overwatch 2 came out, it was less than an hour before the assets were uploaded to Pornbase.
Oh, no.
So
how did they get them off? I want the Overwatch assets.
You could probably find them. They had those girls within seconds.
Oh god.
That new Diva model's got some rigging that should not have been in a game.
No. That's terrible.
It's like furry art. I kind of wish I
Oh,
studied
yeah,
more
I
in
could-
2D art because I know some
I-
people who have paid off degrees
Yeah, I have
drawing
many
furry art.
times debated to myself, should I just make furry art for the furries?
I went to school with
They're
a
so
fella.
loving and rich for some reason. I don't know where they get all their money from.
Well, I went to school with a fella. I will not name him or where he currently works, but he drew furry art, and he had and this is something that happens. He had a regular contact,
Right.
and this regular guy would request once or twice a month a new piece of art that was very specific
Very
to his persona and his fetish, which was a fetish I won't say, but is
Tell me afterwards.
It's not illegal, but it's also not on the common side. It's not scatological either.
Taboo. Would you classify it as taboo?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
So my friend would draw him art, and he'd get these absolute, like, I'm talking $3-4 a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend bought a
Hit me
Porsche
up
with
that
it.
guy.
Porsche car.
Oh, now you
He
can-
did 4 years of bi-monthly content. He bought a Porsche with it.
How did he
Old
get-
school,
but
did it up.
I guess
This guy was
a lot of people have keyed into this now. I feel
Yeah.
like the furries are spoiled for choice.
100%. You got to be good.
Yeah, you got to be good. Just
But there
take
are,
choice.
I don't know.
Harry, do you want to walk in to my computer room and just see giant wolf dick?
Wolf spread eagle with a snake crawling through.
I'll do it.
'Cause I
you know,
do.
You got to pay the bills. I'll do what has to be done.
Some of the money. And there is enough furries that I think I retract my previous statement, and they will do anything.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
rich
yeah.
furries, and
You're-
they're everywhere. This gentleman who was buying this was very high up at a government department.
Good on him.
Hey, you gotta have your thing.
Everyone's got to have their thing.
You gotta have
I
your thing.
read something, right, where it was very interesting. It was someone critiquing 50 Shades of Grey and how it was unrealistic. But the reason why he thought it was unrealistic was hilarious.
Mm.
He was like, you know, the main Christian Grey, I think his name is.
Yeah, it's meant.
Not Dorian Gray. That's
It's a
cool
play.
guy.
It's a play on
Yeah.
Dorian Gray. It's Christian Grey. Or
Christian
whatever.
Grey. They were like, he was like, it is so unrealistic. He was like, if you were that sort of high-powered guy that bossed people around and was like dominating and alpha the whole work day, he's like, the last thing you would want to do is go home and dominate someone. He's like, that's work. He's like, Christian Grey is would in real life be a little submissive, boy
100%.
getting like stepped on by a lady in high heels. Like that is what he would be into. And I was like, that is hilarious and that is incredibly accurate.
I've been with women who that is 100% true. In real life, they're bosses and they get home and they just want to be subs.
yeah.
It's 50 Shades is definitely wrong.
So that's what
He'd be
unrealistic about
exhausted.
it.
He'd get into bed
He's
and
working 24/7
but
at that rate.
but fetishes aren't universal, so he
Yeah.
might be the odd one out, and that's the
So
reason
the
they wrote a
idea
book
of,
about it.
the idea of like a high-powered, high-level person having
Yeah.
like that completely makes sense to me.
Yeah,
You have to tell me what the fetish is afterwards.
I will.
Yeah.
He bought a car, so the Porsche car. It was a 1980 something 911, one of the GT models, so a Porsche. Yeah,
You said a lot of words and a lot of numbers.
yeah, they're just car, very nice, fancy car.
Pretty old car.
Yes,
I appreciate a beautiful car. I
Yes.
just don't understand anything about it.
cars are great. Let's not talk about cars. I'm not really a big car guy. I just like Formula One and know about cars, but I drive
The
a
detachable
shitbox
monocoques,
Mazda,
that's all I
detachable
know.
monocoques.
That's all I know about Formula One.
They've saved many lives, the
Saved
old
many
detachable
lives.
monocoques.
I owe my life to detachable monocoques.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Let's quickly go over the schedule before we
Yes.
get into another crazy,
What is the time? How long have we been going for? Oh,
about an hour and a half, I think.
that's pretty good.
What do I want to do? I want to go to this one. I want to drop that bad boy. All right, we're going to go quickly over this. We might do it again at the end as well. Here is this week's podcast. Right now, on Sunday, you are listening to the podcast.
That's right.
Next week, it will be the same time. Don't
what
know
else
who's going to
is
be on it.
happening on Sunday?
I believe you're going to stream tonight.
I might. I made affiliate. Did Harry tell you that?
Congratulations. No.
I did. I didn't have time to make my emotes and things.
Yeah.
But
You got
I'll
time
do that
before that.
sometime this week.
Yep.
I'll get to it eventually.
What are you streaming tonight? Overwatch?
I wish I could stream Dark and Darker. That
Yeah.
was a lot of
I'm pretty keen for it to
was
come out.
fun. I think once you get the hang of it, you could just like annihilate a dungeon with your like two homies and it'd be great. Probably Overwatch.
Hydrate
Maybe
again.
I'll go back to Valorant just for like a quick 10 minutes. And then just be like, I hate it. I miss Overwatch.
It's Valorant. I hate Valorant.
I hate it. You just stand still.
It's
I
for
love the
divorced
chaos.
kids.
I love the structured chaos of Overwatch.
Yeah. Played it once.
We should join our Overwatch team that we're getting together.
Pretty sure I say this every single week, but I hate competitive games, so I'll just whinge the whole time.
That's true.
It might make for some good content if Cameron's just getting killed and whinging the whole time, but I suck at competitive games.
That's fair enough.
Monday, we have Adam streaming. Normally you'd have Harry streaming on a Monday, but he's moved to Tuesday.
He's got some stuff he's got to put together.
Yes, and there may be something happening in this room Monday that we can't talk about.
Oh, that's right.
That
Harry
rhymes with YouTube
gave
content
me whispers of people are going to be invading my house.
for quite some time. Hopefully, get some stuff done. Nice. So Tuesday will be your Harry stream. It'll probably be Bannerlord. Get amongst that. I believe we are currently in a new campaign. It's going well. There's some bugs to fix. Yes. Not bugs, sorry. Classes to tweak. People to kill. Get your big camel out. I know there's a massive camel. That's all I know about it because I seem to miss all the Monday streams.
He's told me something.
Yeah, the camel gets bigger every time it levels up. Yes. So it's going to be as big as the map by the time they're done. And Wednesday, we've got you again. What do you normally do on Wednesdays?
Sometimes I don't. Like, I didn't do Wednesday this week because I did it Tuesday with Harry. So Wednesdays is like if I feel like it because I'm not a hardcore streamer girl. So if I feel like it on a Wednesday, I'll stream on a Wednesday.
For sure. Thursday, we got Stone Block. Greatest day of the week because that's the only day I seem to stream. Oh, excuse me. Last week was very, very drugged up Cameron not knowing what was going on, and we killed 2 massive chickens. That was quite fun. But I just was so out of it. And I'm going to be honest, all I've done for like the last 4 weeks is read the book that I'm doing for the quests. Mm-hmm. And it's just getting so confusing.
I know who you are. The Battle guy. Oh, this person watching us and just had no idea.
That's not me.
Version from normal content.
That's Harry. I'm Cameron. Yeah. And it's not Chloe either.
Harry hosts us. The Bannerlord man hosts us.
Yes. Thank you for joining in. I hope our conversations have been worth it.
I think we're good background noise.
We are. That's always what I want out of a podcast is the podcasts I listen to. I'm never 100% listening, but I got it on in the background and I'm giggling and I'm chuckling. So, yeah. And we've also got Midday Mitch on Thursday. That's not a set time, and I don't think that's a set date either. He bounces around, he flutters in the wind. Streams, and I miss having the music on while I vacuum my house on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday morning. And then Friday afternoon, we've got Adam again. I don't know what he's playing at the moment. I've missed his last few streams, but catch that, end your week with a bit of Adam. And then that's it till the podcast. Saturday's a blank now.
Sarah's only doing one this week.
One this week. Well, he'll do Stone Block, but
yeah. Now, that's right. I forgot he's doing Stone Block too. Sometimes, now that we have the 2 separate rooms set up, we can play things together. So he might show up on my stream sometimes.
Yeah, nice.
Like we might play Overwatch together tonight.
Do it.
See how we go. Get
that rank. I'm still trying to Astro stream, but we live in a country that it's sunny at the moment. But there's rain coming. So there's no point me even saying it.
There's a lot of rain coming.
In 2 days, there is a lunar eclipse. My original plan was to record the lunar eclipse. I believe we're looking at 100% overcast.
Oh,
I honestly don't think I'm going to get a clear night till after Christmas, which is pretty sad. I would really like to do some Astro streaming because...
Is it the sort of eclipse that you can watch and you won't go blind?
Yeah, because it's at night. Right. So it's the moon will go bright red. And it'll slowly start to disappear.
How often does that happen?
You usually get one every year, but they're very locational dependent because of where you can view it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's those sort of phenomenons that make me more forgiving of why people invented religion.
Oh, like, 100%.
How could you see that? How could you see a blood red moon that you've never seen before and not think that it was a god?
100%.
That makes sense to me.
800 years ago, or a little bit longer, a star blew up and it formed the Crab Nebula. God. And we can see writings all over the world about that. Yeah. And every single one is just, cool. God doesn't like us now. God's mad.
Mad at us.
There was day for 3 days. There was no night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That would fuck with people's head.
Oh, yes.
800 years. So
3,000 or 4,000 years ago, there was an even bigger one that 7 days of light. And of course, you have ancient Babylonians and ancient tribes who were just freaking the fuck out. There's Aztec
It will
carvings
never
of
be
just
night again.
pretty
Yeah.
much. They started thinking it was a gift because, sun brings harvest.
Yes.
And then they just weren't sleeping well. So some people were going insane and like, this is the wrath of God.
Yeah.
When in reality, a star, this is 300 light years away, just
Gosh.
gave up,
It's
gave
like
the shit.
I think in like 18. This is less of astro. I guess it is due to the star and the moon. It was like 1828 or something. There was a year without a summer,
Yeah.
and it was due to a bunch of like
The coronal defect.
things that happened at once that just meant that it was winter all year.
Yeah.
And
The sun went
people
into a radiation pullback. It wasn't creating as much heat as it normally does. And it's just because the sun ripples.
yeah, I think it was due to like there was like some volcanic eruptions
Yeah.
in Thailand, and there was a few causes, but I was like, dang,
Very bad
I read
lineup.
about that, and now I feel like I need a
Bunker.
doomsday hoard of rice
Right?
or something and flour. And I was like, Harry, I'm getting very anxious about food insecurity. I need to start hoarding things. Can I have a cupboard where I keep all my
Hoard.
flour? And he was like, okay.
Yeah, let's pickle. 100%.
Yes. He's like, as long as it remains within this cupboard,
Yeah.
that's fine. And I was like, good. I'm going to Costco to get some cans.
Yes, I need 700 bags of rice, please, sir.
I don't know. I just like
Bury
if
it
it's
out
happened-
bush.
If it's happened once before, it will happen again.
It
Or
will 100%
It
happen.
almost happened during COVID.
Hey,
Like,
I'll put a dot on it.
we almost got like enough food insecurity that it was like a problem. Like,
Almost fell over.
we almost got crossed the line of panic.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
we didn't quite. People are like concerned, but we didn't get to panic, which is when people start robbing the grocery stores.
It's very rare Australia mobilizes the home front, and our military was ready to turn on the
Yes.
cities, which is very rare.
Yes.
Very, very rare.
So luckily that didn't happen, but I'm not foolish enough to think it won't ever happen.
No,
And
it'll
with
happen.
The floods and the fires, all it would take is 1 year of like lots of things lining up,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's not a lot of food in the grocery stores, and then people start freaking out.
I've played enough Fallout. I'm fine. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I would love a nuclear bunker. I think if
Same.
I was rich. Oh, in Canberra.
There's a couple. There's two on either
Tell me
side.
afterwards.
I will.
Yeah. Like
You can walk to
open
one
to
from
the
here.
general public.
Well, they're not known to the public, but they were used during World War II.
Oh, so if there was a we got like a
They're
2
not-
hour warning, a 1 hour warning.
They're not upkept, but you could survive a nuclear blast in them. I had
Okay.
actually.
Tell me that. That makes me feel better about
This
the
brings me
end
on
of
to
the
a
world.
dream I had last week.
Mm.
I take a absolute cocktail of medication.
Yeah.
And it changes what kind of dreams I have. I go through a cycle where I'll have 5 days of not dreaming at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll have an absolute nightmare of a dream. And then I'll go on to have like a week of steady dreams. Then I go and get my infusion, 5 days of no dreams, same cycle.
Yeah.
When the 5 days ran up, I had this dream that I was in a building and it was so vivid and real. You know, you have those dreams where you're like, this is happening.
Yeah.
I was walking around talking to people, and it was kind of like a model of where I used to work, which had a bar in it and a cold room. If you don't know what a cold room is, it's a big lead-lined room that holds in cool air, and you have fans that move it, and it's for cooling drinks. And I was the person in charge of it. During this dream, I'm walking around, and it feels so real, and I'm sitting next to a window, and I hear this blowing up noise. I turn around and there's a nuclear explosion and it's coming towards me, and it's so fucking real.
Yeah.
I felt like I was real, and I'm
Like,
screaming
this
at
is the end of
people.
the life.
Yeah, it was
Was
crazy.
it lucid? Like, were you in control of what
Yeah,
you were doing?
because I was telling people to like, I knew where the kitchen was in this place. I'm like, if you can run, go to the kitchen, grab food, and then get to the cold
Yeah.
room. I'll lock it up. Just
Yeah.
get there. And we're running, and then someone fell over, and I ran over to get them, and then I just saw it hit the glass shatter.
Oh.
And the worst place to be in a blast is near glass.
Yeah.
And I just woke up in a cold sweat.
Oh god.
Crazy.
Well, my dad used to work, he was like a radiation health and safety officer. And so I've like drilled him. I was like, okay, nuclear explosion in Sydney. What do we do? What's the go? Like tell me everything I need to know in case we're not living together and this happens.
Yeah.
And he's given me like a full rundown. Like, this is what you do. He's like, obviously you're not in the main blast area because you're dead. Like, this is what happens if like you're in the residual area, like close to it. And I mean, you might already know, but I can tell you about it. Is that website where it tells?
The nuclear radius.
Yes.
Fucking love that website.
I think there's a thing on the podcast where you can see the what you're searching.
This might actually, yeah,
But
it might dox us. But anyway, go check that out.
Do you want to know his main advice?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, just don't go outside.
Yeah.
He's like, just stay in your house for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you can. He's like, and if you know that it's going to happen beforehand, pour as much water out of the ground, like into tubs and sinks and bottle, like
anything,
as much water as you possibly can, because as soon as it goes
fill
off,
the bath.
fill the bath. Oh, we don't have a bathtub, which is like, I started panicking when he told me that. I was like, anxiety. I was like, we don't have a bathtub. What are we gonna do? He's like, you fill all the sinks and you put stuff in under the doors and in the cracks and you just wait it out.
Yeah.
He's like, because then it will all settle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go out and and he's like, iodine tablets. He's like, not really. It depends on the type of bomb that was used. It's not a thing.
That was a very 60s thing, iodine.
Yes.
But now we've made clean
Yes.
nuclear bombs.
Yeah, so it was just like, if it was, radioactive iodine, if you fill your thyroids with iodine, then it won't take up the radioactive iodine.
Yeah.
Because it's already full. He's like, but that's like a thing of the past. He's like, it's people go crazy buying like iodine. And it's like, he's like, it's not going to
It is good for cleaning water, but you don't need a lot.
Yes.
A little bottle can get you through a 10-day trip. I know that.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But I'm very curious where the nuclear blast shelter is. But I also feel like my worst nightmare would be going there and there's like hundreds of people that knew about it. They've all come out of the woodwork and they're
100%.
fighting each other to get in. That's more stressful to me than just sitting on a hill and waiting to die.
Yeah.
The possibility of living and like the stress of trying to, that would freak me out.
100%.
Harry and I have this very controversial, he talks about like the zombie apocalypse. He's like, what would you do in the zombie apocalypse? And I was like, I'd kill myself.
Yeah.
I was like, why would I want to live through that? And he's like, you wouldn't even try to survive? I was like, no, absolutely not. That sounds like the worst thing imaginable. And he just doesn't understand that. Here we go.
Yeah, just use Rad-X.
Yeah.
I way into zombie apocalypse stuff. You get, especially at a job that is boring. I spent a lot of my time at my old job thinking how I'd fortify the building and how I would run it for my zombie apocalypse.
Oh, like in this world, you're like the commander.
Oh, 100%. I'm a general in my own army.
Yeah.
I 100% am dying day one. If I don't have a constant supply of citric acid and water, a kidney stone will kill me in 6 months. So what the fuck is the point?
That is crazy.
I'm with you. As much as it's not that I don't want to survive. It's that I'm going to be a burden in 6 months' time when I'm trying to pass a kidney stone and we've run out of morphine.
And when it's like down to like evolution, like kill or be killed, we'll just leave you behind.
You got to eat me.
Yeah.
That's my thing,
I had a best friend where I was like, if we were stranded on an island and you died and the only way I could live was to eat you, I was like, do I have your permission? And she wouldn't give it to me. She was like, and I was like, what do you mean? And I think there was a misunderstanding where she thought that I was like wanted to do it, like that I was really wanted to eat her. I was like, no. I was like, this is
not
the
Army
last
Hammer.
resort. Exactly. I was like, this is like, you're already rotting for like 3 weeks. I put it off as long as possible, but if I don't eat you, I'll die. And she was
I'm not eating 3-week-old human.
And I was like, the only thing that's going to console me is knowing that you gave me permission to do it. And she was like, fine. It was very reluctant.
I'm not asking for permission. I'm eating before your eyes are closing and I'm already nibbling on them toes.
Yeah, like you're not quite dead yet.
You got any pepper sauce? I've always wanted to try living on a island because I love fishing and I reckon I could live off fish.
Did you know there are some holidays where you can do that?
Yeah.
They'll drop you off on an island and you can pick your level of comfort that you want.
0.
Yeah.
I'm going there with a knife.
Like I think there's somewhere they'll have like one little cabin, and it's always like you could kayak to a town if you needed to.
Yeah.
Like it's always like close by, but it's like you can simulate the survivor experience if you want to.
Have you seen An Idiot Abroad? With
Yes.
Carl Pilkington. The deserted island episode's so funny. He just is so excited to do it, and then he gets there, it's raining and he's whinging. And it's like the episodes are like 40 minutes long and he's on the island for 3 minutes. So fucking funny.
It's like I can't do it.
He just whinges the whole time.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start canning things.
Do it.
Apparently, that's
Preserving.
my new hobby. I'm gonna be on Doomsday Preppers.
Do
Like
it.
I remember watching Doomsday Preppers, right? And there would occasionally, some of them are just fucking crazy. And occasionally there would be people that are like, yeah, we just have this giant garden in our backyard. We make all our own food because we don't want to trust on, grocery stores if things went bad, and we just like to be prepared. And they still try and phrase them like they're crazy people.
Right.
And I'm like, that is so smart.
Yeah.
You're a genius. Being completely
100%.
self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Not relying on,
That's why I want to buy a farm. Because I hate supermarkets.
We've had plans for our commune.
Yeah, we're
for a
going to
while,
buy
haven't we?
once this channel blows up.
And it
buying a
won't be
commune.
like all the other communes.
I'm pretty cultish. I've got a big fascination with cult leaders.
Yeah.
We're going to be Heaven's Gate too. That's really insensitive. I'm obsessed with Heaven's Gate.
Okay, I'm less into this commune idea now.
I just hate people.
Can we have a council?
Council.
And it just
I'm the
descend
ruler of the
into-
council though.
No, that everyone on the council.
Jim
is
Jones
equal.
too. Call me Cam Jones. You like Kool-Aid gang?
No, that's terrible. Have you listened to the recording of that?
I may have owned a vinyl of it.
I need a vinyl of it.
Very, very
I've
hard to
listened
get.
to it because I'm like, I'm also curious about psychology. I'm
Yeah,
also
of course,
curious
yeah.
about those kinds of things. I don't think I've ever owned. I would never own it.
Yeah, I don't have it anymore. But yeah,
That's
I highly
fair enough.
recommend it.
It's terrible.
Listen to it. It's.
I mean, it's actually.
if you're of age, it will change your it will
groupthink is very powerful.
it will ward you against
Yes.
that kind, and that's why I liked it, is because I saw a lot of people. I've always been a little bit of a black sheep, and seeing groups of people come together with, like, as weird as it is, I used to hate sports fans because I'm like, why are you cultifying this person?
Yeah.
And then now, even more so, it's really prevalent now with parasocial relationships with streamers and content creators.
Yes.
The very slippery slope to just rocking up and killing everyone.
Well, it's very like, for those of you who don't know, we're talking about the recording of what's his name?
Jim Jones.
Jim Jones's commune in was it in Africa?
It's either Africa or South America. I always get it wrong.
Where he convinced everyone to move there, and then he convinced them all that the government was coming to kill them, and they needed to all kill themselves
So that they could go and join him in heaven
They
as
could go
the
to
second
heaven.
the second army of God.
And it's the recording of him telling them that this is what they were going to do, and there was like two women, I think, two women that were like, no. And then everyone shits on them and was like, blah, 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 blah. And I think one of them escaped.
Yes.
One of them, but there was another, I think she was an African-American woman who was like vocal. She was like, you guys are crazy. And they were like, shat on her until she was like, okay, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very interesting to I think it's good to expose yourself to those things so that you can recognize when they're happening.
Yes.
Because if you never, it's like dark and twisted. But if you never expose yourself to the way that evil people think, then you don't recognize it when you see it in front of you.
Definitely.
Because the evilest people don't look the way that media tells you that they should look. They're very
always charismatic.
They're always, attractive. They're generally attractive, charismatic. Like, they don't even have to be attractive. They convince you to love them for different reasons.
That was Jim Jones's thing. Most of his young life, he worked as a political aide. No one expects the political aide to kill almost 100 people.
Yeah. So, like, you gotta, I think that's what I like about psychology is like, I hope it's prepped me to not be brainwashed.
Yes.
Because I can recognize when I'm being brainwashed, hopefully. But
Who
very
knows?
smart people. Like, I had a friend whose sister was in like the Korean cult.
Yes,
What's it
that
called?
the Sun something.
Yeah.
It's currently
She's
in and out of the media at the
a
moment.
very intelligent, creative, wonderful person. I knew her before she was in the cult. I know her after she was in the cult.
Yeah.
And she just got,
It's very easy.
it took because they didn't go full throttle as soon as they met her. Yeah, exactly. Like, they were her good friends, close friends for a year before they started spouting crazy religious nonsense at her.
Yeah, that's how they
and
do
so
it.
she was like, I care about these people. These people are my friends. They never brought up any of these concepts until she was reliant on them
Yeah,
and cared about them a lot. And then they brought it up.
yeah.
And they had to call someone into
The deprogramming.
and he had and she connected with another woman who was part of the cult. They did a documentary on ABC about it. They interviewed them for it. And the other girl was much deeper in. She was moved into a house of people.
Like a commune.
And they had to fly someone in from America.
Yeah.
And they had to lock her in the room with him for 3 days.
Yeah.
Because she wouldn't
Listen and
wouldn't listen to him.
engage. Yeah.
So against her will, they had to she could have left and reported them to the police for holding her against her will, because it wasn't like it was a hospital.
No.
it was just a random guy
Yeah.
that the family had hired to fly in to
crazy.
do it. Like, it's crazy.
One of the ones that concerns me the most and I'm most interested in is Waco with the Branch
That sounds
Davidians.
familiar.
That was the big David, I can never remember his last name. He basically took over a religious sect
Right.
and he formed the Branch Davidians. And they had a commune in Waco, Texas. And a bunch of stuff happened that I'll go into a little bit more detail.
The comment over the world.
No, that's
No.
Heaven's Gate. That's the
Yes,
one I'm
yes,
very
yes.
into. What happened was they were legally modifying and selling guns, completely legal in Texas. But the Tobacco and Firearms decided they didn't want them, so they surrounded them and eventually burnt the place down and killed almost all of them.
Right.
There's a very good documentary by a wonderful man called Windigoon. You should go and watch it, where he basically proves that the Branch Davidians didn't do much wrong.
Right.
And that they were just a religious sect minding their own business. And since then, the American media, because the government made the decision to kill these people, have made them look batshit insane.
Right.
David was not a cult leader. He was just a very unwell religious man. And it's just very fucked.
I've heard of
it's
Waco,
disgusting.
but I don't think I've ever looked into. I know about like Heaven's Gate and
Heaven's
all that
Gate's
stuff,
the one I'm very obsessed with because it's very
you know-
space focused.
Louis Theroux did a documentary. He was doing a documentary on cults, and he at the time before they
It was
all
less than a
killed themselves.
year.
Yeah, I think it was within like a few weeks. He said that he was trying to talk to them, and they were like open to an interview, and then they were like, "Oh, we've got some stuff going on. Can't really do it right now." And then in the documentary, he's like, "Yeah," and then 10 weeks later, they all killed themselves.
They did the thing.
They did the thing. And I was like, dang, imagine if he'd gotten that interview before they'd done it. That would have been...
That one, yeah. The old Heaven's Gate. I think I've said it before, but it's not insulting. I feel really bad when I talk about it because there's a lot of people who lost their lives, but I'm very interested in it. And I've always wanted a pair of the shoes that they've worn. I don't know why.
Like
but
the actual shoes
yeah,
or like a replica of the shoes?
They were Nike Decades.
Right.
And
Because they all wore the same thing.
they just went out and bought the cheapest tracksuit and shoes.
Yeah.
Nike Decades are now one of the most expensive Nikes in the world. And a lot of people I respect own a pair, and I've always tried to buy them, but they sell for so much. They're also nice shoes.
If you made millions and millions of dollars, you would have a room in your house dedicated to cult memorabilia?
Probably not memorabilia because I think that markets it the wrong way, but I'd have a pair of the shoes.
Not memorabilia, but like
It's actually why I got rid of the
things
recording.
Have you seen what's that new movie, The Nope?
Yes.
And you've seen that movie?
Yes.
And he has a room dedicated to the one event?
Yes.
And would you have something like that?
Maybe.
That's more of a museum quality level objects than
I think my obsession with cults is I hate the word pity, but a bit of respect for those who were killed.
Right.
So I want to keep the memory alive of the people who were
and I think,
brutally mistreated.
Yes, and I think
that's one of my things. I don't know.
Generally, people looking outside into cults think that all the followers are stupid.
Yeah.
That they're easily misled. They completely if someone really wanted to, they could get anyone into a cult.
Yeah.
If they were charismatic enough. I think people overestimate their own mental fortitude, and I think I could be tricked into something weird.
I have family members who are in what I would consider a cult. It's a Catholic, religious, Baptist psychopaths who I absolutely hate, who are ruining my family. And I think that's another reason I'm obsessed with it is because I love theology and most of them are very Catholic based. The ones I'm interested in are.
But until I knew someone who had been in a cult, and I knew that person, and she was older than because she was my friend's older sister. Yeah. I always respected her, looked up to her, and I was like, wow, it can happen to anyone. It can happen
to anyone.
And she's doing great now. She's living her best life.
Yeah.
But I was like, it can happen to anyone. And that's what I find so interesting. And that's what you said about the not pity, but
I want to respect
you
them.
feel like something was lost. That didn't need to be lost.
100%. And that's why I got rid of the Jim Jones recording.
Right.
It's because it was glorifying the guy who did it, not the people. And that's why I kind of have this
I tend
obsession with the shoes because it wasn't the cult leaders.
I'm the same. I tend to focus more on the individuals involved in I don't care about the crazy guy running it really. I'm more interested in all the individuals and, you know, what they did. And, you look at like the
Jim Jones.
Yes. Like the Wikipedia page that like, I've read the whole Wikipedia page, but I'm only reading about like what people did what and where they went and the people that got away before it happened. Like that's what's interesting to me.
100%.
More than like the I don't care. I don't know anything about him.
I know a lot about the cult leaders, but yeah.
I sort of dismiss them as being like, well, evil. Or if they weren't intending to be evil, that's how they ended up. And maybe that's too dismissive. Maybe they're more complicated than I give them credit for. But
Yeah.
I'm just sort of like, well, you did this horrible thing. I'm not going to glorify you by like looking into you more. Like that's why I like barely remember Jim Jones' name. I don't care,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the individuals that got swept up in it than and how it came to be.
What caused it. I'm also interested in their beliefs. I mentioned before I was going to come back to something about religion.
Yeah, you said remind me about religion, and I
forgot. And also it's connected to what I said about family members inside of a cult-like situation. They are. I don't think they like me very much because I'm an atheist. Yeah. I'm the only one.
They tend to disapprove of that.
Yeah, and it's a big family, and myself and my sister are the only ones who went to a Catholic school. The rest of them went to public schools, but most of them are very religious. The other night when I was streaming, my uncle messaged me. My uncle never messages me. I barely talk to the guy because he got very mad that I have Buddhist symbols tattooed on me. Right. And it was just a video. I'll show you the screenshot. I won't show it here. That's all it was. He just sent me a video.
He just sent you a video, and you were like, "Oh, do I click on this?"
I clicked on it. It was a
good night. Thank you for hanging out.
Good night. Thank you very much for joining us. This was, I swear, not all of our podcasts.
Hope you don't have weird cultish apocalyptic dreams.
Or just we love you. Good night. I clicked on the video.
That was a mistake.
And it's a gentleman reacting to a video, which is already off to a good start. And he's just dumb white guy sitting there like, yeah, interesting. The video is of a guy, an archaeologist in where I believe it's I don't know where Sodom and Gomorrah is. I believe it's just near Turkey. Yeah. And he was like, look at this. This is proof of God's wrath. And he pulls out a white ball from sand and he lights it on fire and it melts into a black ash. And he's like, this is proof of God's wrath when he cast brimstone down on Sodom and Gomorrah. Right. This is his destruction. We all need to turn to the teachings of Jesus Christ. And it was like a 5-minute video. Yeah. I closed the video, opened Google, typed in how common are sulfur deposits. Yes. They're everywhere on the planet. But just this single, I called it's on my mother's side and she's nothing like this. She's very against it. I called her and I'm like, did you just get a message from your brother? No. Called my sister. Did you just get it? No.
Just
my dad? Just me.
He's picked you. He's going to evangelicalize you.
100%. I'm getting cultified into the... But the good thing is, I know so much about theology and Catholicism. I can defeat them in any argument they have. They misread the Bible like no one's game. So,
what's interesting is that he didn't then send a message afterwards.
No, and
it's just a video. It's just a link to a video, and it's just a little bit of bait, and he's just hoping you'll nibble on it.
Yeah,
and respond.
I was so close to asking, "This is incredible. Can I come to your next meeting?" And
don't do it.
And I've contemplated it, going and giving a speech because I know exactly what they want to hear, and if I just give them that reformed boy, I'm going to overthrow them. I'm going to become the leader.
Poison them from the inside.
Yeah. 100%. No, I'm not going to do that.
I think you'd have to like get your tattoos removed to show.
No, but that's my mark of sin. If I'm this holy being covered in marks of sin, I am divine.
Right. Interesting. You kill him with kindness.
100%. Yeah. But I think the first thing I thought was because it was Sodom and Gomorrah, and I've only been open about my sexuality with them recently. I thought that was probably why he sent me it. Right. But it went on to go on about God's wrath.
To me, it just feels like an argument that I don't see the point in having anymore. It feels so
old,
irrelevant, and unimportant to me.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like when I was a teenager, I was like very anti-religion. I was like, I would fight anyone on blah, blah. And now I'm just like, I feel like I'm arguing with a child. It feels like arguing with a child.
Yeah.
And you don't argue with children.
Yeah.
Because there's no point yelling at them.
Why waste time
Yeah.
with someone who's not going to change their argument?
Yeah,
I have no problem with religion. If you want to
Yeah.
believe.
Yes.
My problem is when they start to refuse medical attention because they don't believe, and they possibly risk my grandmother's life because it's not in the Bible that
Yeah.
you can go and get penicillin. But apparently, yeah, I'm not going to get into it too
Then
much. But
yeah, like with I tutored a lot.
yeah,
My last week of tutoring was last week. It's very sad.
congrats. And
I
yeah.
tutored some of them for like 8 years.
Wow.
For some reason, all the kids I tutored were religious and came from a religious family.
Yeah.
And so occasionally they would bring me religious assignments and I would have to help them with it. And I'd always be honest. I was like, look, I don't know much about theology, but I can help you structure arguments and, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just wasn't my place in that moment. Like, what a dickhead would I be to be like, well, actually, God's not real. I just helped them with the assignment and I just, the points that they came up with, and I would come up with like devil's advocate. I'd be like, okay, I'm a Christian now. How would a Christian formulate this argument?
Yeah.
And that's what I would help them do. And they were lovely people. The families were lovely. I don't have an issue with, I get like, it's hard because it's not, I do have an issue with religion. I don't have an issue with individuals.
Yeah. It's the structure.
Yes, I have an issue. Like I had to
organization.
do an assignment with a girl about it was essentially about colonialism but it wasn't phrased in a way that made it negative.
Oh, of course.
So I was like, how do we talk about this without making it negative? And because it didn't have to be Christianity, it could be any religion. So I was like, okay, well, how about, the Spanish Inquisition? It didn't have to be her. It could be Catholicism. It could be anything. I was like, well, how about we talk about something that's not related to you so I can talk smack about it for the point of this assignment, but it's not related to you. And it was very difficult. And I think once one of the girls, she was like, we're doing an assignment. She was like, at the end, she was like, are you religious? And I was like, do you think I am? Like, what do you think? And she's like, well, you always help us with the, assignments and you sound religious. She's like, but I've never asked. And I was like, you know what they say, don't talk about religion and politics. And I just like skirted past it and we like moved on. But I think in them, they all thought I was religious.
Yeah. Something similar. I won an award. Received an award in year 12, a religious award. Because again, coming back all the way to the front of this podcast, when I dropped to below university entry classes, I was put into the it's called accredited religion, and you don't, it's so easy.
You just say God is good.
Not only did I do my assignments, I did every other male in the students' assessments.
Right.
Because they were all on in-school trade assessments. So they were basically only at school to graduate and then go into trades.
Yeah.
Most of them are worth millions of dollars now, but struggle to write essays the way the school wanted. And I got this mindset, again, back to the cultish shit. I knew exactly what the religious teacher wanted to hear, that I could just write bullshit about what he wanted to hear. And I was getting like 100% on these assessments. And I could write the other guy's stuff a little bit worse, so they were still getting A's. But this teacher full on came to me and no word of a lie asked me if I wanted to join the Brotherhood.
Oh gosh.
He's like, you have
such a deep and profound understanding of the message that we're trying to.
Yeah. And the worst part was we had home group. My home group teacher used to write theology assessments for the ANU and the Australian Church. So he and I would just constantly talk theology because I loved it. So I was just basically using his writings.
You're a good little God boy.
Yeah. Massive atheist at the time. I was one of those angry atheists at the
think
time.
I think all atheists start out that way.
Yeah. No, I just don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to get a cross tattoo just to piss people.
An upside down one?
Yeah. On the chest. But for Murdoch Nichols, I wanted it for Murdoch Nichols, the Gorilla's character, because he's got an upside down cross. And I wanted it for that, and then quickly was like, yeah, this will be real, like, angsty. I'm not getting this tattoo. I'm never getting this tattoo.
It's similar to, like, a hate symbol. Not in the
of course, it is.
In the fact that if the wrong person saw you with it, it's like drama that you don't need to
So I got asked if that was a pagan rune or, like, a hate symbol.
Yeah.
It's a crest from Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's a weeb symbol.
It's a weeb symbol.
Dimitri's
symbol of my
house
weebism.
crest.
Well,
we're about to hit the 2-hour mark.
I think that's a good place to wrap it up. We've got 2 minutes to go.
I'm going to chuck this back up so you can check out the sketch. We've been over it.
Yeah. Well, I've had fun. Let's summarize. What have
Let's
we talked
summarize.
about?
We've talked about anime a lot.
Lovely.
Bit of hentai.
Yeah, wasn't expecting that. But
You sit on a podcast with me and it ends turned up fucked.
considering the podcast last week, I think we've done well.
What was the one last
There
week?
were no nipple tassels.
Oh
present.
yes,
Yeah.
no, God no. I had planned to, but
I
Brad
thought
took my
about
bit.
bringing mine out.
God
but
damn it, Brad! This would have been the double.
It's already been done, so what's the point? you know?
Fucking Brad.
Yeah. God damn it.
Then we talked about psychology.
Yep.
This is probably the psychology podcast. Learned about some rats. Unfortunately, I already knew. I highly recommend the documentary. Frederick
Yes,
Knudsen does
I'd
a
like
good.
to watch that.
Just watch all of his stuff. Down the Rabbit Hole. Highly recommend it. I think you'd thoroughly enjoy his stuff.
What's it called?
Down the Rabbit Hole. He's got a massive, I think it's going to be like 5 hours long, coming out about Eve online. I believe he hasn't really talked about what incident, but I think it's going to be the $1 million war that destroyed those ships. I played Eve at the time, so I'm very
I don't
excited.
know anything about that.
Oh, it's spreadsheet simulator in space.
Have you ever heard of Jenny Nicholson?
No.
She sort of does the same thing where
Yeah.
every now and again she'll release a random 4-hour deep dive into a very niche topic.
Fuck yes.
And the one that just came out, she did a whole thing about FurryCon.
Yeah.
Did you ever do were you into the My Little Pony?
God,
Oh no, sorry, not FurryCon, the My Little Pony Con.
Yeah, no, I've never been a brony. I had friends who were, and
Yeah,
I
there was like
absolutely hated it.
Did you hear of Friendship is Magic, which was like they would take the My Little Pony clips and then make it darker and more twisted?
Yeah.
So she was the voice actor and creator of that.
Oh wow.
So she was like, she's a hardcore like brony.
Yeah.
Like, before, and she liked My Little Pony when she was like a kid. Like she's been, so she was like the perfect person to just do this dissection into the last BronyCon. It was just about BronyCon.
Yeah, wow.
And about like the documentary they made about it. It was crazy. She did a 4-hour deep dive into the entirety of the Vampire Diaries. And she's just got a very dry sense of humor. But the latest one was about a guy in Texas that wanted to build like a D&D Disneyland.
Yeah.
And it's like a breakdown of that.
I'm
and
gonna
like,
have to watch
it's really
this.
good.
I need some good essay channels. I'm running out.
She's very like nerd culture deep dives.
Yeah.
Just into really oddly specific things.
I've watched all of Oki's World's videos. He's probably the best documentarian on YouTube.
Oki's word.
Oki OKI
Yeah.
is World. And he just did one on the young guy who died in a tunnel that he was digging for a millionaire. It's a very, very sad story.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And then
People
he's
are into digging tunnels. That's a phenomenon of
Whoa.
men that like to dig tunnels.
coming all the way back. This guy was trying to build it as a nuclear bunker.
Right,
and
right.
there are theories that he may have killed him on purpose.
Oh, so that the location of the bunker would not be revealed.
Pretty much. So I highly recommend all of his content too. He did one that I watched that absolutely broke my heart about he was a fake soldier of fortune in Afghan.
Right.
He tortured Afghan civilians
As you
and
do.
convinced them to tell lies about being terrorists, and he got military contracts, and it was like kind of funny, kind of fucked, and then he went insane and thoroughly abused a woman who he actually interviewed, and she's an incredible woman. I highly recommend watching it.
I do like deep dives.
Yeah. Again, back to that podcast in the background noise. I tend to put them on and just kind of zone out.
Yeah, I like to have them on when I work. Now of my new job where I work at a computer,
Yeah.
I've burned through. I'm burning through Critical Role, like Dimension 20. Like
Yeah.
I'm starting to get up to date with Campaign 3. Have you? Okay, the only thing I want to talk about on this podcast
Yeah.
was to convince you. Have you seen Alexandria Unlimited, the mini series that they do for Critical Role?
No.
There's one about the Calamity.
Okay.
And Brendan Lee
Ooh.
Mulligan DMs it.
Yeah.
And Travis is in it, and Marisha's in it, and Sam's in it, and then he has Lou from Dimension 20,
Yep.
and he has this one other guy whose name I can't remember. But it is single-handedly the best example of D&D I've ever seen in my life. It's 4 episodes long.
Mhm.
I'm halfway through the last episode, and I've stopped watching it because I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be over.
That's what I did with season 2. Campaign 2.
It's incredible because it's all, and it's, if you love, because I know how much you loved Campaign 1 above all the other ones. And it's got some like really nice links to Campaign 1 in it. And it's just about when the
I'll watch
world
it.
was sundered.
I have not watched Critical Role in probably a year and a half, 2 years.
And because Brandon is, Harry probably thinks I'm in love with this man because I just talk about him so constantly. He has like, I like him more than Matt. I like started with Critical Role and I loved Critical Role. And then I just started seeing Dimension 20 clips, just kept popping up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch this guy.
Yeah.
And I watched the Fantasy High, which is like the first
Yeah.
season they did. And within 3 episodes, like I remember at the start, I was like, oh, I don't like this, blah, blah, blah. Within 3 episodes, I was like, this is the greatest DM of our time. This is amazing. Because he's so funny. But he also, I think he did philosophy at college. And so all of his stuff has just got this heavy philosophical background. And, you know, you look at the series that they do on Dimension 20, and that one's like about like, it's called The Crown of Candy. Yeah. It's like Candyland, and all the characters are made of food. Mm-hmm. And you think that's such a silly premise. But he takes that and he turns it into this deep lore, like serious, like he's like, no matter what medium I choose to present my story, because he does like, they do space, they do, he's never done like pure fantasy. And so the Calamity was the first time I'd ever see him do like pure fantasy. And I was like, this is amazing. Like in the first 20 minutes, he says some lines that like shook me to my core. Like people are like, I've not stopped thinking about this moment.
Yeah.
I like have no one to talk about it.
I'll watch it.
Harry doesn't watch D&D anymore.
Yeah,
very much.
I'm with him too. I haven't watched D&D in literally years.
So watch the Calamity, and then we'll spend the next podcast just
talking about that.
It.
Right. Yeah. My issue's always been I don't like comedy D&D. I don't know why. I've never liked it. So
it does, like, I think he does.
It's never comedy. Him that I did dislike. Yeah. It's the other people who are just trying to fight for jokes.
Yes.
Which isn't a bad thing. It's got its audience. It's just not my thing.
Yes. There's so much comedy in his. There's so much comedy in his stories, but there's so much like seriousness. Like I've seen clips where I think it was in the space one. There's like a species of slug people.
Fuck yeah.
And he's talking about the hierarchical system, like to one of the characters, like, you know, the macrophagian diet. Like he's so serious, but the words that he's saying are just so ridiculous.
Dorky, yeah.
To the point that someone's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "What do you mean? The macrophagian dynasty, flub glob, the blah blah blah." Like he always tells it so seriously. Like he always has like such a deep background that he's written that, you know, isn't even touched upon, I'm guessing sometimes. But somehow everything's so concise.
Yeah.
You know, it goes, Fantasy High is like 20 episodes long. Mm-hmm. And you know, Calamity is 4 episodes long.
Does a full story.
He rounds it all out and makes it so like, I don't know. I just like fangirl over him more as a DM than I've like ever fangirled over anyone. Because I just appreciate him so, like, what he can do so much. It's amazing. You should watch it.
I will try and watch it.
Because I think you'll watch Calamity and then you'll be like, oh, he's a really good DM, and because it's some like critical role that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And then you might take the deep dive into like A Crown of Candy, which
probably not, but
Crown
maybe.
of Candy is like my favorite one that he's done. Probably,
yeah.
Of all, like I loved. There's like there's tied 3 series are tied for me.
Yeah.
I cannot pick a favorite out of the 3 of them that he's done, but Crown of Candy is one of those 3.
Nice. I think I got burnt out with D&D because everyone saw how well Critical Role was doing. Like, we're going to do a D&D podcast, but we're going to be the funny ones.
Yeah.
So all these people I were watching did a D&D podcast, and they'd always have one person that was everyone was just unfunny. And I just got bored of D&D content. I love playing it still, but
yeah. I think because Dimension 20, they're all comedians.
Yeah.
So you know they're going to be funny.
That implies college humor.
And he's like,
is funny.
improv. Well, I think
he's funny. I think he's funny.
But his improv skills are like crazy. So he can just like, I don't know. It's just so good.
Yeah,
I'd love to meet him, and I'd just be like,
marry me.
Like, I think he is the only. I'm not like a worshipper of celebrities. I don't. I feel like if I met Brad Pitt, I wouldn't care. I'd just be like, hello, oh, you're very famous, very rich. You probably don't want to talk to me. I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
I think he's the only celebrity, and I use that term loosely because he's a celebrity to nerds, not to the general populace, that I would meet and I'd genuinely be like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, I'm too overwhelmed.
That's really cool.
I appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
And I just know whatever I say will just come across as weird, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to be like, I'm a big fan. And then that's all I'd be able to get out.
You?
Yeah, that's all I'd be able to get out.
Yeah.
Like, I just think an amazing DM.
I don't think there's anyone like that. Maybe Charles Leclerc, but
that you would like be speechless.
If Michael Schumacher was still able to talk, I'd probably lose my shit with him.
Who's that?
Greatest F1 driver to ever live.
Oh yeah.
He was in a skiing accident.
Yeah,
He's been
that sounds familiar.
out of the public eye since.
That's sad.
Yes, very sad.
I hope Brennan watches this and
Yeah.
doesn't think I'm weird.
Please watch this and maybe sponsor our D&D show. That might happen one day.
I just really appreciate him as
Yeah,
a
well, you've convinced me
funny
to check it
person.
out.
funny person.
I just, humor has always killed D&D
I
experience
just stopped
for me.
watching it at work because I was going to start crying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I just
Because in the
cried when
last
Paul was
episode,
on.
I was just like, I'm just going to start crying at work in front of everyone. I was like, I have to stop.
Do it.
But you have your own office so you can cry in peace.
No, I don't.
I thought you had your own office.
They don't like me that much.
Oh.
I did, and then they moved me because a man who makes 3 times as much as me, who's almost in his 60s, had to be babysit. So they kicked me out of my office so he could go there and
So now you just
be
have
watched.
to weep openly.
Pretty much. But the good thing is my coworker hasn't shown up for work in like 2 years, so the desk in front of me is empty.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well,
that was
what
a good
an
podcast.
Exciting podcast. Lots to talk about.
Yes.
I had a great time.
I had a wonderful time. I like this combo.
It got dark.
Got real. We're the real pair. We are.
Mm.
We
I
get
feel like
deep dive.
I feel like all of our diagnoses are very the same, very similar.
Yeah, very similar people.
I think our brains are very similarly wired.
Yeah.
Except I hate F1 and looking at stars through telescopes.
You hate looking through.
What's the point? They're just there. They don't move.
I'm ending this podcast. And this friendship. I get it. It can be boring, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'll convince you.
I just like sci-fi talking about the stars.
You ever seen a nebula through a telescope? You ever seen a planet through a
I
telescope?
look at pictures on Google Images. That's all you need.
You ever seen with your own 2 eyes the rings of Saturn? You ever watched the transitioning moons of Jupiter with your own eyes?
I saw that time when Venus went across the sun.
Nah, it doesn't count. It's a little
That
black
little
dot.
Yeah, I was like, oh, cool, and then I left. It was
You've
like,
never. Once you see a nebula with your own eyes, you'll.
I'm
you'll
sure
weep.
if you did like a
Cry.
stream and you brought me out and I looked through, I'd be like, oh, that's pretty, and then I'd be like, cool.
Yeah, it is one of the most boring hobbies.
Mm.
But that's probably why I like it, because I like boring things.
Because I mean, how much does it change? You know, once you've seen them all, you know.
But do you know how many there are? So there's this index called the Messier Index, created by a man named Charles Messier, who actually, if he was still alive, I'd weep if I met him.
You'd weep in his presence.
Astronomy hero, a French guy. He was tasked to make a book of things to avoid, because he was a comet hunter in the 18th century.
Right.
And he wanted to write this book for the king, and it was objects in the night sky to avoid because they're not comets.
Right.
He discovered Andromeda. He discovered all these galaxies, nebulas, all of these gorgeous objects that he was trying to avoid. And
Avoid as in like.
Well, because they were
not
trying
find?
to track comets.
Right.
So he's like, if a comet tracker finds this object in this quadrant, ignore it, keep looking.
Oh, it's just Andromeda.
It's just well, they didn't know what it was. It's just a speck that doesn't, because it's these dusty objects that don't move.
Right.
So we don't know what it is. We don't care.
Yeah.
That put the groundwork for modern astronomy. A few years later, William Herschel took that. He's probably one of the most prolific astronomers. He revised Messier's book, and this is in England this time, and he found more stuff and started saying maybe these little furry things should be looked at. So the Messier catalog has 108 objects in it. The catalog that Herschel created is the New General Catalog, the NGC. Currently have 17,000 objects in it.
That's all objects you need. How many more can there be?
They're still finding stuff. You can't see all of them with your own eyes. You do need a big space telescope to see probably 10,000 of them.
Well, you know
but you can see lots of them
you know
with a
that
telescope.
big picture that NASA released of like all the
Deep.
Yeah, the big, like the longest
deep
range.
shot. Yeah,
I looked at it, I was like, no.
That's fair.
Unless I can go there, I don't care. you
Hey,
know?
one day,
I wanna
one
go-
day.
If I could go there, I'd be excited.
Yeah.
You know, but at this point, I'm just like, well, you know, it makes me sad because I'm like, look at all this wonderful beauty that I will never get to experience. So I'm like, well,
Yeah, I get
better to
that.
just not look at it.
It's reductionist. But yeah, hopefully I can show everyone some astronomy stuff. Look, there's the rain clouds barreling in.
Just in time for the eclipse.
Oh, all right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your
Thank you
weekend
for hanging out with us.
and week. We'll see you next week.
See you, boy.
Goodbye. Good night.